Today we got a story of probably one of the most entitled Karens ever getting, just having a complete public freak out, and it's pretty hilarious and I know you'll enjoy it. So buckle up for this story, subscribe if you're new. And let's call the subscriber who submitted this story, let's call her Emily. So this all happened when Emily and her parents moved into a new neighborhood. So the new neighborhood wasn't actually that far away from where they used to live, but there was, for some reason, Emily's family decided that they either had to or wanted to. Either way, they moved to a new neighborhood. It wasn't super far away from where they used to live, so Emily didn't really necessarily need to find a whole new friend group. She could very easily stay in touch, as before they used to be neighbors and now they're a 20-minute drive. So not a huge deal. But anyways, right, with a new house comes new neighbors, right? And there was a neighbor next door who was the Karen, but we'll be getting to her pretty shortly. So anyways, Emily moves in, and they have the moving truck, and the mom and the dad and Emily are moving boxes into the house, and they notice that next door there's a woman on her porch just looking over with her hands on her hips in a very kind of like, where's the manager type movement. I mean, you'll see in a second. Maybe she was super nice, but she really wasn't. And she was just watching them the whole time. I mean, I understand, like, you're interested in, like, your new neighbors coming over, but maybe watch them a little bit more secretly if you're just going to watch them. And if you're going to be so blatant about it, maybe go over and just introduce yourself. And I mean, she was kind of older, so I get that she wasn't offering to help because maybe she couldn't. But just, like, say hello. I don't know. If you're just going to be, like, staring at them creepily, or not even, it wasn't even creepily staring. It was just, like, intensely staring. If you're going to be doing that, at least go over and introduce yourself, for the love of God, please. But anyway, so Emily's noticing this and is like, kind of looks over to her mom and says, oh, she looks fun. And her mom's like, Emily, like, come on now. We have to be nice to our new neighbors. And maybe she's this shy. Turns out she was not shy, but you'll see this in a second. So anyways, Emily decides that, about a week after they've moved in, the Karen next door has not introduced herself yet, but Emily is just kind of like standing outside. I don't know what she's doing. Maybe she just got out of her car. Maybe she's just looking around. Maybe she's, I don't know, tending to the garden outside. For some reason, Emily is outside of the house. That's all you need to know. And sure enough, after about a week, the Karen, she looks over and she sees movement kind of like in her peripheral. And she looks over, and sure enough, the Karen is kind of like waddling towards her. And Emily kind of like puts on a smile, has no like preconceptions of this woman besides like, oh, she was a little weird, like staring in or whatever, but just assumes that, she's probably going to be nice because she's walking over. And so the woman walks over and she's like, hello. And Emily's like, hi, like, we just moved in. It's nice to meet you. And the Karen's like, sure, whatever. All I need you to know is that you can't be loud because, like, I will call the cops if you're loud. And Emily's just like, okay. Cool. So Emily's like, yeah, don't worry. I'm not loud, really. And the Karen's like, no big teenager parties, okay? I will call the cops. And, Emily's like, I that's not really my scene anyways. Like, I might have a friend or two over, but we're not even loud. We'll watch a movie or something. But yeah, don't worry. I'm not the neighbor you need to worry about for that. And the Karen looks at her and says, good. It better stay that way. And Emily's just thinking to herself as the Karen's waddling back to her house, like, damn, dude, like, really? Like, is that the way we're introducing ourselves? Look, I get it. I don't want neighbors that are going to be throwing insane ragers at 3 a.m. Personally, me, and I'm 19. I'm not a Karen, so, like, I get it. I agree. But I'm not going to be going over to someone's house, no introduction, right, and just being like, you better not be having big rager parties or I will call the cops on you. Like, okay, man, like, cool. Like, don't shoot off fireworks at 5 a.m. into my, like, room from your house. Like, I get it. Like, okay. But anyways, Emily kind of just brushed that off and was like, oh, well, my neighbor's kind of a grump, but whatever, man. Like, it's fine. We can have grumpy neighbors. It's not like I'm going to be spending an incredible amount of time in my house anyways. So about 2 weeks into moving in, so a week after the first Karen incident, which wasn't even really an incident, it was kind of the precursor to the movie. It was a little bit of lore to update you guys. But anyways, Emily has her friend over, one singular friend. And this friend is not loud, not rambunctious, and the only way that the Karen knew that Emily even had a friend over was that there was a new car in the driveway. So Emily and her friend, Emily's friend was looking around the house like, wow, Emily, this house is so cool. Like, This is awesome, whatever. Emily shows her a room, like, well, what they do stuff, right? And Emily and this friend are literally just watching a movie. It's not even playing that loud. It's like playing at normal volume in a room in the house with the TV when they hear a knock on the door. And the thing is, right, Emily's parents were gone for the night or whatever. They were just not there. So Emily was a little confused of who it would be because it was like 11 at night. So it's not like, I don't know if you have like Jehovah's Witnesses go around knocking on doors. That happens to me but sometimes, but that happens in the middle of the day if I'm around, right? But who would be knocking on the door this late at night? Because Emily's parents were gone. They weren't going to be back till the next day. But Emily just thought, all right, well, let me at least go down and see who it is, just because, someone knocked on our house. I should at least see who's at the door. So Emily walks down, and her heart begins to race because she's seeing these, flashing blue and red lights outside of her house. So she's like, oh my God, did something happen? Are my parents in the hospital or something? Or did, some terrible news? Or is there a burglar around and they think that he ran in here? Look, the police are outside, so Emily's very concerned. And so she opens the door and she's like, hello, officer, how can I help? And the police officer's like, we got a report of a quote unquote massive rager party going on over here. And Emily's like, sir, no disrespect, but I think you're at the wrong house. And the police officer's like, yeah, well, I mean, this was the house that I was told and I double checked, but really doesn't look like you guys are doing anything here. Do you have anyone over? And Emily's like, yeah, I have one friend. We've been quietly watching a movie. And the police officer's like, well, someone in your neighborhood, because he doesn't want to give it away, I guess. But it's very clear who it was because Emily looks kind of beyond the police officer and sees the Karen, right, her neighbor, with the hands on the hips on her front porch looking over. And Emily's like, I knew it was you. And the police officer's like, somebody in the neighborhood, I don't think I'm allowed to say who, reported that there was a massive party going on and that was super loud and it was a crazy rager and that I needed to come and shut it down. This obviously does not look like it, but I guess if you guys are being loud, maybe quiet down a little bit. Maybe the movie is kind of loud. And the thing is, right, Emily turns to the police officer and says, sir, the movie's still going on right now. I didn't tell my friend to pause it, and I can almost guarantee that this is as loud as it was. And they couldn't even hear anything because it was just all the way up in the second floor, kind of tucked away, the TV room was, right? So it's just the police officer's I don't have to say. I guess this was kind of a false report, but I guess just in general, be aware of noise. And Emily's like, all right, well, I have been, but I will continue to be. And the police officer's like, all right, well, that's all I need to hear. And so the police officer gets up, starts walking away, and Emily is about to turn and close the door when she hears noise, and she kind of turns, and guess who it was? It was the Karen yelling out at the police officer, saying, why didn't you arrest her? She is throwing a rager party. Do you not see the car in the driveway? And, the Karen points to the car that isn't normally there. The officer, because at this point, right, Emily is kind of went back into her house, but she's kind of kept the door open a crack so she can hear what's going on. The officer's like, ma'am, it's very clear that there's nothing going on in there. please, don't make false 911 calls. I'm going to let this one slide for now because I don't think this was done maliciously. But in the future, we will have, you'll start to receive penalties if you make calls for, the emergency services. And it is really just it's basically, if you're wasting our time where there might be actual emergencies, and we're here dealing with nonsense that isn't even happening, that's going to become a problem, but I'm letting you off the hook for this one. And she's like, that's insane. There's a party going on. The noise is so crazy. It's too much for me. The officer's like, ma'am, I got pretty good hearing, probably better than yours. A little bit of a roast there. And I can't hear anything coming out of that house. Have a good night, ma'am. She's like, no. And at this point, Emily is realizing that her neighbor is probably going to be a bit of a nuisance, a little more than she expected. So Emily walks back upstairs, and sure enough, her friend is still watching the movie because she was told just to keep watching the movie. And the friend's like, oh, who was it? So Emily sits down and explains to the friend what happened. She's like, dude, that's insane. We've been so quiet. We've literally made no noise. And Emily's like, yeah, that's probably what the police officer was saying, that the Karen was basically made a false call because he came in and he realized that there was no correct call, right? And you might be thinking, oh, well, this is the climax of the story. No. The title is Karen Loses It in Public or whatever. The Karen is about to have an actual crazy meltdown over the smallest thing ever, and you're about to see. Real quick though, comment Karen down below if you want to harden your comment, because that is the secret word of the day. And also, if you want to help us get closer to 600,000 subscribers, binge watch the videos to sit down while you're doing, I don't know, playing games, artwork, cleaning your room, going to sleep, literally whatever. And just binge watch a bunch of videos. There's some playlists, just put on autoplay, whatever you got to do. And comment down below when you do that so I can say thank you, because it really does help. Anyways, back to the story. Because the Karen gets even worse, dude. I know it's hard to imagine, but she does. So 2 weeks after the party rager incident, which basically is like 4 weeks after Emily moved in, so about a month into moving in, Emily was just noticing that her internet speeds were just not very good. Like for some reason, like even trying to do simple stuff, like it was just very slow. And so Emily would unplug and then replug the router, and that's normally a good fix. And then eventually, she was talking to her parents, who also were like, yeah, things are a little slow and we don't know totally why. We got a pretty fast plan. And so sure enough, they call up Verizon, AT&T, I don't know, whoever, right? And they're saying like, well, there's a lot of like use on your network. Like, I mean, it's just, you're going to have slower internet when you have so many people using it. And at this point, like, they're like, oh, well, so many people. And the internet provider's like, yeah, you got like, says a number that's larger than the family, right? So they're like, oh, well, I don't like, that's weird. That's more people than we have. Oh, sorry, my voice just exploded. 1 like equals 1 prayer, please. Anyways, the internet provider's like, oh, well, if that's more people than you actually have, you should consider just changing your password, because maybe there's some people who got into your password or are using your Wi-Fi without you even knowing. And yeah, sure enough, Emily's mom was like, oh, well, we didn't even set up a password. And the person's like, you don't have a password? And Emily's mom's like, yeah, it was too hard to remember. And then the guy's like, well, that probably explains why your internet's so slow. So sure enough, they decide to actually set up a password on the internet. I didn't even know you could have internet without a password, but actually, no, I've been in places where that's true. So anyways, a password goes up, and, Emily immediately goes outside to just water the gardens because, like, whatever, right? And her parents go out to go grocery shopping, and her dad's out. So it's really only Emily left, and Emily's outside watering the gardens. And that's when she hears the door open of her Karen neighbor. And Emily in her head is like, please just be going somewhere. Please just be going somewhere. Please just be going somewhere. Don't. I really hope you didn't notice that I was outside and you want to talk to me for some reason, because I do not want to talk to you, crazy lady who lives next to me. Okay? Normally you should be nice to your neighbors, but her neighbors were not nice to her, bro. I mean, you were listening to this story. I don't blame her on this one. But sure enough, the Karen comes out, and Emily looks up a little bit and sees that like smoke was coming out of the Karen's ears. Like she was like visibly very, very angry. So the Karen is like, walks out, bump, 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 kind of thuds out there, and is like, you're behind this. And Emily's just so taken off guard. She's like, behind what? And she's like, you know what you did. You know what you did. And Emily's like, ma'am, please. You got to communicate with words. Like, no more huffing and puffing. No more, like, bumbling. What? Why? What? Emily was kind of upset at this point. And the Karen's like, you added a password to the Wi-Fi. Now how am I supposed to watch TV or browse the internet? And at this point, Emily was like, so it was you bogging down our internet connection. But Emily actually said, well, ma'am, like, it's not your internet. Like, I'm sorry, we added a password to our own internet. Like, maybe you should buy your own. And she's like, that's ridiculous. The fact that I have to deal with you and your rager parties and the worthless police won't even come and shut them down. The only thing that was keeping me from suing you guys was the payment of your internet. And now you stole that from me. And at this point, right, Emily's like, whoa. First of all, 1,000 things wrong with that statement. First, I don't throw rager parties. Second of all, sue us for literally what? Third of all, the police came and decided that, noticed that there was nothing wrong and that you were calling them and wasting their time. Fourth of all, payment and Wi-Fi. And then fifth of all, I personally stole my Wi-Fi from you, who was stealing it from. Like, bro, come on now. And the Karen is like still super angry. And because Emily just, that's what she was thinking. She didn't actually say out loud, like, you're an idiot or anything. She's like, well, ma'am, like, you should just buy your, like, we added a password to protect our Wi-Fi. It's dangerous not to do that, especially with personal networks. You have to understand, I can tell you what service provider we were using so then you can buy it yourself. And right, the Karen is still so mad. And the Karen just starts making rage noises. She's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And Emily's like, ma'am, are you okay? Do you need like 911 emergency services to come and help you? And the Karen's like, no, you need 911 emergency services because you suck. And Emily's like, what? That doesn't even make sense. And the Karen's like, this is the last straw. This is the last straw. This is the straw that broke the camel's back, and you will suffer the consequences of doing so. Emily's like, suffer the consequences of putting a password on my Wi-Fi. And she's like, that plus all the ragers. And she's like, that one time I had a friend over to watch a movie, which you couldn't even hear. Yes, and other things. Other things such as, shut up and listen to me. Emily's like, okay. And the Karen's just like, you messed up now. You messed up now. And Emily's kind of just thinking to herself, like, what? And Emily says, ma'am, like, I don't think there's anything left in this conversation. So the Karen doesn't, okay, I was about to say she sprints inside, but she power waddles inside, let's be real. And then, so she's power waddle. She's power waddling inside. And Emily's like, oh, well, I guess she just rage quit IRL. I'll just go back to watering my plants. So Emily goes back to watering the plants. And that's when, 20 minutes later, she hears police sirens. And she's just thinking to herself, you got to be kidding me. Like, there's no way. And the Karen power waddles out of the house and is like, there she is. There she is, officer. This woman is attacking me. And the officers are like, okay. Like, two of them walk out. And one of them was the one that showed up last time. So he was already very suspicious. And he's like, all right, well, what happened here? And Emily says, what do you mean? And the officer's like, we got a emergency call that you had to come here because there was like some kind of distress you were causing this woman. And we were called in. And, the Karen starts power waddling over as well. And she's like, yes, arrest her now, arrest her, full force of the law, immediately. And Emily's just like, officers, like, I was just watering my gardens. Like, I literally have done nothing wrong. The Karen's like, lies, you lie, you liar, you're full of lies. And, Emily's like, all right, well, then what did I do? And the Karen's like, emotional distress. She added a password to her Wi-Fi so I can no longer calm down with a relaxing Netflix or Hulu binge, and I can't go on YouTube to watch, all the late night show clips I normally watch. The emotional distress is too much. The officer, like, the first one's like kind of turns over like, huh? But the one that's been here before is like, ma'am, you do remember when I told you before that abuse of like 911 calling is like very serious. Like, you can't be doing that. And I already gave you a warning. And this is very clearly even more absurd than the last one. And the Karen's like, well, arrest her. And Emily's just she's just chilling. She just like continues to water her garden. She's like, all right, officers, if you need anything else from me, let me know. And the officers were like, no, sorry for bothering you. And the Karen's like, what? And they turn to the Karen. And the officer who's been here twice already turns to her and is like, ma'am, I already gave you a warning. Now I'm going to have to give you a penalty. Like, I'm going to have your first and last name. And the Karen's like, no! And power waddles into the house. And so they turn back to Emily and they're like, do you know this woman's name? And she's like, no. Emily's like, yeah, the only time she came up to introduce herself, she didn't say her name. She just threatened to call the cops on me. And they're like, oh boy, okay. And then so they go over, they get like the Karens, like, for one cop is like knocking on the door, like, ma'am, you can't be doing this, ma'am. And she's like, arrest her, arrest my neighbor, she sucks. And then the other officer is like going over, grabs the license plate number. It's like, all right, well, we'll run this through the system and we'll get her name. We'll send her a fine or whatever. And sure enough, the cops leave. And, Emily, this happened like all pretty recently, but ever since this incident, Emily's only seen like the Karen once or twice walk out to go, but she makes no eye contact with Emily or anything. And Emily's had more friends over since, and since it's never been a big deal, I mean, the Karen just has not called the cops again because presumably she received a fine or something. And submit stories on my Instagram like Emily did if you want to have your stories featured on here. And How's it going, everyone? I hope you're having a good day because today we have one of the craziest Karen stories ever. So sit back, relax, maybe grab something to eat, grab something to drink, subscribe if you're new. We're going to call today's subscriber who submitted this story, we're going to call him Zach. So anyways, right, Zach and his mom move into a new neighborhood. And, Zach is, I don't know, he's in high school, so he's kind of an older kid. Zach isn't an adult yet, but he's kind of getting up there, right? And so anyways, right, Zach and his mom, they move into this new neighborhood and, they drive in and they're like unpacking their bags and they're getting in there. And believe it or not, their neighbors are not Karens. Their neighbors are actually really cool people. And their neighbors walk over and they say, hey, like, we're going to help you move in. Not even like, do you need help moving in? They're like, hey, we know what it's like. We're going to help you move in. So they helped them move all the boxes, and they said, hey, come over for dinner tonight. So Zach and his mom were actually really excited because they had really cool neighbors. And so sure enough, right, dinner time came around, and they walked over to the neighbor's house, and the neighbor was kind of just telling them all about the neighborhood. And Zach's mom was like, hey, is there anything we should know about the neighborhood? Because, I don't know, maybe there's a really cool restaurant that no one really knows about, but is really good and it's kind of underground. Maybe there's really cool, maybe there's a really good park. I don't know if they had kids or something. Maybe there's kind of a sketchy part you want to stay away from. I don't know. There's maybe some things about the town that you just wouldn't know from a quick Google search. And the neighbor kind of looked at them and said, well, there's actually this woman, you might see her walking around and just don't make eye contact. Just kind of let her go about her business. And kind of Zach and his mom look at each other kind of a little bit what's going on here? I don't like this. This is a little weird. And then the neighbor's like, you know what? Don't even, you know what? That's nothing. It's nothing. Forget I said anything. Dude, whenever someone says, forget I said anything, that is the most ridiculous statement ever. Because they say something really interesting. They're like, oh, forget I said anything. Dude, I will not be able to forget that you said something of interest. Come on now. So anyways, they continue on having dinner, and it's a great rest of the dinner. And Zach and his mom are walking back over when it's to their house when it's done. And Zach says, that was really cool, but didn't you think that was weird when that guy started to talk about this woman that walks around the neighborhood and how we shouldn't make eye contact? And then kind of midway through his sentence, he said, you know what? Forget I said anything. That was weird, right? And Zach's mom was like, yeah, man, that's kind of strange. I'm not going to lie, but whatever. If it's really an issue, he probably would have said something. He's pretty cool. So anyways, days go on, probably about a week or so, and Zach is about to get into his car. So Zach has his keys. He's walking outside and he's looking at his car. He's about to put his keys into his car when he sees in the reflection of the car, right? There's a kind of a figure moving in the background. So Zach turns around and sure enough, across the street, he sees this woman walking. And it's this kind of older woman, and she's kind of waddling along, and she has these big aviator sunglasses on. And that's when she stops walking. And she turns and she looks directly at him. And Zach is a little bit freaked out. He's not going to lie. He's a little bit freaked out at this moment. So he quickly turns back around to put his keys into the car and be I'm not going to start anything. And that's when he notices in the reflection of the car that the little kind of blob in the background is starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So he turns around and he looks, and sure enough, right, Karen is crossing the street. But she's not crossing the street just to cross the street. She was very intently coming right at him. She wasn't crossing over, or wasn't going to the house next to him or before him. She was coming right at him. So Zach at this point knew that he probably couldn't get away with just putting his keys in the car and, running in, because she was closing in fast. Even though she was a bit of a shuffler and didn't move that quickly, I guess when the Karen wanted to strike, the Karen was going to strike. So sure enough, the Karen walks up to his lawn. And, Zach kind of turns away from his car and looks at her and says, hello there, Obi-Wan Kenobi. No, I'm just kidding. She's like, hey, what's up? And the Karen is like, you don't live here. And Zach is like, well, no, my mom and I just moved in a couple weeks ago. She's like, nope. I know the owners of this house. They're trying to find someone to buy it, and you are squatting in here. If you don't know, squatting is basically when a house is in limbo, like no one's living in it, but someone will probably live in it at some point. People will kind of just break in and just live in the house without paying any rent or anything like that, or just without owning the house, just because, no one's living in there, and it is technically a crime. So sure enough, the Karen was accusing them of that. And Zach at this point was like, ma'am, no, this is my house, or this is my mom's house, and I'm living with her. Like, we're just not squatting. That's just not a thing. And she's like, no, I know the landlord, and I do not remember her telling me that she sold the house. So you must be squatting. You better get out of here. I'm giving you a countdown of 1 day for you and your little squatter buddies to get out of my neighborhood. And Zach is like, well, ma'am, I'm not going to get out of your neighborhood nor this house because I live here and my mom and I purchased this legally. And the Karen's like, nice try. Just know that I will get the authorities involved if you're not gone within 1 day. And Zach is like, okay, sure, do it. Real quick, comment Karen down below if you made it this far into the video. And if you want to support the channel, just sit down and binge watch a bunch of videos. It really does help me out. And let me know in the comment section what you're doing while you're watching my videos, like playing video games, going to sleep, whatever it is. I'm going to be pretty active today in the comments, so I'll try and heart and just say thank you. I appreciate you guys watching me and just always, I really do. And I wish I could say it. I'm going to get back to the story. I don't want to drag this on, but I just want to say thank you. Like, genuinely, I'm very grateful. Anyways, let's get back to it. So sure enough, Zach is like, okay. And the Karen turns around and walks over to the other side and is like pouting the entire time. Like, it's very weird and surreal. So when Zach's mom gets back from work, Zach is like, yo. And his mom's like, what? And Zach's like, dude, so you know like how we were over at that house? And, you know, his mom's like, yeah, like we're just over there a couple weeks ago. You know how they're talking about that lady that we shouldn't make eye contact with? And Zach's mom's like, yes. And Zach's like, dude, it was crazy. I was just looking at my car and I saw something in the reflection. And then a lady just came over and she accused me of squatting. And his mom's like, dude, what? And Zach's like, yeah, she said I had 1 day to get out or she's getting the authorities involved. And Zach's mom's like, well, we're not going anywhere because we legally purchased this house. Like, that's ridiculous. And Zach's like, dude, that's what I was saying, but she didn't take no for an answer. So sure enough, right, you know, a day goes by, and the next day, Zach is at home, and it's a Saturday, so his mom is also at home. And that's when they get a knock on the door. And, you know, Zach's mom approaches, and Zach is like in the other room, so he actually comes over just to see. And when Zach is coming around the corner, he sees his mom talking to two police officers. Basically, the police officers say, hey, we got a route, we got a call that like you guys were squatting here. We don't necessarily believe it, but we have to come, like we're forced to come here. Is there any way, look, ma'am, it looks like you're living here. We can just go about our day. And Zach's mom's like, no. Actually, I just want to get this on the record so that she can't pull anything later on. I have the deed to my house on the phone. I think you can have a deed on your phone. She had some kind of verification / proof on her phone. Zach's mom pulls out her phone, shows both the officers. The officer's like, ma'am, so sorry about this. Like, we had to come. The lady who called you in has always been kind of trouble in the neighborhood, but we can't rule out everything she said so far because she once actually got someone. So it's, we're sorry, ma'am. Like, have a nice day. We won't ever see you again for something like this. And sure enough, right, Zach and his mom were like, oh, okay, great. This is great news. We're done. Oh, no. No. Incorrect. False. That is a false narrative. That is fake news. They were not done. In fact, that was only step one of Karen's evil plan. The Karen's evil plan only got more evil after this point. So sure enough, right, the next day comes around and Zach is back outside in his car. And once again, he's walking out to his car, and that's when he kind of he catches something in the corner of his eye, At the end of his driveway, the Karen is standing there with her hands on her hips, and the black aviator sunglasses, once again, were piercing into his soul. So he turns around and looks at her, and they basically have a staring contest for what's probably like 5 seconds. But in Zach, it just felt like to Zach like minutes, like hours, like days, millenniums, like infinite universes amounts of time. Like it was just so long. So Zach eventually is like, "Can I help you?" And the Karen says, "So you tricked the authorities. And Zach's like, "Come again?" And she's like, "I know you're squatting. I know that you're a big squatter and you don't actually own the rights to be here. But somehow you fooled the incompetent authorities. The police department over here are idiots, I'm telling you." And Zach's like, "Ma'am, come on. You called the police on us, which was ridiculous, and we showed them proof that we own the house. What more do you want?" And she's like, "I want to be satisfied, and I'm not satisfied until you guys are gone for squatting." And Zach's like, "Ma'am, do you think maybe it is a possibility that we are in fact not squatting?" And she's like, "No." So Zach tries to reason with the Karen, but the Karen is basically saying, "I believe that you're squatting and I'm going to prove it one way or another." So anyways, Zach finds this kind of weird, a little bit ominous, but I don't know. It's some senile old woman. Like, honestly, what could she really do? What could she do? Anyways, so sure enough, right, the next day, or not the next day, right, it's getting close to bedtime. Zach and his mom, they're watching some TV show, and eventually it's getting late, and they're both like, "All right, let's go to bed." So, Zach goes into his room, he's on his phone, and he's watching a video. And he hears kind of like this weird banging noise. And he's thinking, okay, did that come from my video that I was just watching, or is that actually something? And then once again, this weird banging noise. And he's like, that can't be, that has to be downstairs. So Zach gets up, and that's when he starts hearing like these footstep noises. He's like, "Oh my God, is someone in my house?" And at first he's like, "Okay, maybe my mom is making like a racket down there." So he starts to walk over to his mom's room because it's a 2-story house, and they both have rooms on the second floor, and the noises were coming from the first floor. So he walks over and he like opens his mom's room. She's fast asleep. This is when Zach's heart starts to race a little bit, because he knows that those are sounds of people or some person in his house. And he was kind of thinking it was his mom until he went and saw that, in fact, it was not his mom. His mom was sound asleep. So now he's really scared. So he wakes up his mom. He's like, "Mom, Mom, Mom, Mom." She's like, What? He's like, "Shh, quiet." His mom's like, "Zach, what is going on?" And Zach's like, "Listen." And at this point, like, Zach's mom's like, What? And Zach's like, "Mom, I think someone's downstairs." And Zach's mom starts to come to it a little bit and is like, "Oh my God, like, hand me my phone." So they grab the phone. Zach's mom dials 911. She's like, "No, this might be an emergency. I think someone's in our house. I don't know if they're armed. I don't know if they're like just totally, I don't know if they're lost or somehow gone to our house. I don't know, but someone's in our house." And they're like, "All right, we'll be there and whatever." So sure enough, right, Zach and his mom are like, What do we do? And Zach's like, "I want to go see who it is." And Zach's mom's like, No, that's ridiculous. Barricade the door." So sure enough, Zach and his mom close their door and start moving furniture, right? And it's a pretty well barricaded door. And all they do now is kind of like Zach and his mom are kind of looking at the door, then they're looking outside their window to check when the cops are going to call, then they're looking at the door, and then they're looking outside the window again. And eventually, right, they see kind of like this blue flashing light, so they're like, "Okay, finally, great, the cops are finally here." And so sure enough, cops come, and they open, and they're like, "Open up, please." Eventually, they break through the door, and then they hear this commotion happening downstairs, like this kind of like woman kind of yelling or whatever. The cops being like, "Freeze, whatever," right? A lot of commotion, a lot of yelling, and Zach's like, that sounds like an old woman. And Zach's mom's like, "Quiet, Zach. let the men do what they're supposed to do. Zach's like, okay, Mom. She's like, anyways, right? So eventually, they stopped hearing as much commotion. They hear steps coming up the stairs, like bum, 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 bum. And sure enough, right, then they hear a knock on the door. And they're like, all right, ma'am, like, it's us. We have whoever's in your house, like, you can come out now. And Zach's mom, like, 1 second, I want to check through the peephole. And the police officer's like, that's totally fine. So Zach's mom goes up to the keyhole, puts her eye in it, and kind of looks through. And sure enough, it is the police officer. So then Zach and Zach's mom start moving the furniture and blockade until they can eventually get out of the door. So they open it. And Zach's mom's like, officer, like, I don't know what happened. Is everything okay? And the officer's like, yep, everything's fine. Like, you can come down with us now. Like, it's totally safe or whatever. And so sure enough, they walk down the stairs. And the other officer has this older woman in handcuffs. And Zach is like, oh my God. And he pulls his mom aside. He said, this is the Karen. This is the Karen I was telling you about. The one who said that, like, we're squatting and that the police are idiots and that she's going to prove it one way or another. And Zach's mom's like, oh my God. So sure enough, they get down there. And the Karen is screaming like, these people are squatting here. They don't own this house. They're a danger to the neighborhood. You guys are just too incompetent and foolish to understand. And the police officer's like, ma'am, quiet down, please. And so eventually Zach kind of like speaks up and he says, hey, I know this woman. And they're like, yeah, we know this woman too. And he's like, no, like this woman, she's accused of squatting and sent you guys here. It was the same police officers. And they say, yep, we remember. And Zach's like, and then she said later on that you guys like were idiots and didn't understand that she was going to prove it herself. So I guess this is her proving it herself. And the two police officers like look at each other and then look at the old woman. And the Karen is like, officers, this is a perfect time for you to arrest them immediately for squatting. Officers, you don't understand. This is the perfect time for you to arrest them. Officers, arrest them immediately. What are you doing? Why are they still standing there? Arrest these hooligans who are squatting in the neighborhood. And they're like, ma'am, we saw their like documents. They're legit. And the woman's like, no, my friend is the realtor around here. She would have told me. And the officers were like, ma'am, what do you think the odds are that either they're really squatting and they were able to fake documents on a whim and show it to us and have completely moved in and faked bank documents and got a fake loan, or your friend, the realtor, doesn't update you with her life every 5 seconds. This house was sold kind of recently. When's the last time you talked to her? And the Karen's like, well, it's been about 2 years, but she totally would have told me. At this point, Zach is like, bruh, wait, what? This whole suspicion was because your friend who owns this house, was going to tell you, and you haven't talked to her in 2 years? And the Karen's like, well, 1.5. No, not even 2, like 1.5. We're still really close. Zach is like, oh my God, dude. So the police are like, all right, what do we want to do here? Zach's mom stands up, looks at the Karen and says, look, we are not squatting and I'm not going to press charges, but if you ever even step foot on this house again, charges will be pressed. Because what you can do is like, you don't have to press charges, but within the statute of limitations, you can always press those charges again. Like, you can, like, bring up the case again, I think. And that's basically, and the police officers are like, yeah, like, ma'am, don't come back around here. We won't have any problems. And she's like, fine, whatever. Because I think eventually Karen got it through kind of her very incredibly dense skull that maybe her friend just didn't tell her and that these people are not squatting. So, yeah, eventually Zach and Zach's mom, they go back in and they try to go back to bed, but it's pretty hard. And a couple weeks later, they're invited back over to their neighbors, or actually they invite their neighbors. That's what it was. They invite their neighbors over because they fully moved in and kind of repay the favor. And the neighbors are like, so any interesting stories you have since you've moved in? And Zach's moms just look at each other and they turn. Zach's like, yeah, actually,
click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it, do it.
How's it going, everyone? I hope you're having a great day, because today I have 3 Karen stories that I know that you will enjoy. So sit back, relax, subscribe to the channel if you're new, listen to this on Spotify if you haven't already, or if that's your preference, first link in the description, and let's just jump right into it. So we're going to call the subscriber who submitted this first Karen story Alex. So anyways, right, Alex was, tasked to babysit his cousin, and they were at a fair. So basically, Alex and his family, they were staying with, the other part of Alex's family with his cousin. And, they all, they were hanging out for like a week together, just some quality family time. And, Alex was asked to babysit his cousin because Alex was significantly older. His cousin was like 6 or something. And he was asked to babysit him when they were going to the fair because, maybe the parents wanted to go somewhere else. Maybe, they just wanted to give Alex and his little cousin flexibility to do what they wanted to do. Alex was around 15 at the time, so he wasn't an adult, but he was definitely old enough to like have that sort of responsibility. So anyways, Alex and his little cousin, they were walking around, they were checking out rides they wanted to go on, and all of a sudden they were standing in line for one of these rides, and behind them came a Karen. And this Karen was like the quintessential Karen, and she was going on these rides by herself, which is totally fine, but the following actions are not as if, she's trying to do it for her like son or her kid or whatever. It's because she wants to go on the ride. So anyways, right, Alex and his little cousin, they're standing in line for this ride that they both really want to go on. And the Karen behind them goes like, "Excuse me, gentlemen," and they both turn around. She's like, I really want to go, I really want to go on this ride. I need to go soon. Can I cut in front of you guys? And the thing was, this line was, this was a pretty big line. So, there was, a lot of people. And, Alex and his little brother, not his little brother, his little cousin, Alex was kind of thinking to himself, no, I don't want that. Look, we've been waiting in line for a while. I just don't think I can do that. And so, Alex says, "Hey, I'm sorry, we don't have a ton of time either, but I feel like this line's going pretty quickly." And the Karen is like, "But I'm your elder and a lady. That should be double the respect, so you must allow me to pass you in line." And at this point, Alex was kind of just looking at her "Ma'am, I'm sorry, no." Because first of all, bro, maybe if you had a little kid and you were explaining to me, "Look, my son really wants to go on this line. We have to go, our ride is coming in 10 minutes. Can you please let us cut?" Okay, fine. But if you're just a Karen who wants to go on the ride, look, I want to go on the ride too. And my little cousin wants to go on the ride. And I just don't think I'm going to let you cut on this one. I'm sorry. I have no obligation to do that. I get it that you're older than me. I get it that you're a lady, bro, but that doesn't matter. That simply doesn't matter. And the thing is, right, the Karen supposedly took it very well. And she was like, "Oh, okay, that's fine enough." The thing is, though, right, this was this was not actually the reaction in her head. Apparently, the Karen was so shocked that anyone would say no to her that all this rage and anger started to build up. It started to just build up and fester, and she started getting angrier and angrier. And Alex and his little cousin turned back around, right? They're not going to continue on the conversation with the Karen. It's a little awkward right now, but they're just not going to continue on the conversation, you know what I mean? And so sure enough, right, the Karen says, "Excuse me, boys, once again." And she kind of had a tone in her voice. That kind of tone when someone says that, when someone has the tone that's kind of a babying voice where they try and baby you, but it's also super, super condescending where they're like, "Hello, can you turn around for a second? I just want to talk to you just one second." I don't know, a little kind of voice like that. So Alex already knew. He already knew from this, right off the bat, that they were going to be in for some nonsense, bro. Some grade A, class A nonsense. So sure enough, Alex turns around. He's like, "Okay, what's up? What's going on here?" And, the Karen is like, "What's your two relationship? What's the deal with you two?" And Alex is like, "Oh, this is my, little cousin." I guess the Karen wanted to know if they were, siblings or friends or random people. I don't know. And the Karen is like, "Alex, I really don't think that you're doing," or she didn't say Alex because she didn't know his name. She's like, "I don't think that, you're doing a good job showing, teaching your little cousin respect. You did not do a good job at all teaching your little cousin respect. That's all I gotta say." it's not very respectful of you. He's looking up to you. He needs a good teacher, and you're honestly not a good teacher for him. I'm sorry to break it to you, but you're not teaching him respect. I asked if I could cut in front of you, and I am your elder, and you said no very rudely. And so Alex is like, quickly, he's like, hey, well, come on now. Like, I didn't say it rudely, and like, I'm sorry. We just want to be on this ride too, and the line isn't that crazy. Like, come on now, like, it's all good. Yeah, maybe Alex could have let her go in front of her. It's not like the biggest deal either way, but the Karen was making it like the biggest deal ever. And she's like, you know what? Fine, you know what? He's gonna, you know what? The Karen is just like stumbling over her words at this point. And Alex kind of just turns back around and she says, your little cousin's gonna learn manners one way or another. I won't let him not learn it. And Alex felt that was like a really weird way to word it. Like, that was a really weird way to say, like, I'm going to make sure that your little cousin learns manners? Like, what do you mean? Like, we'll never see each other again. Alex, at that point, thought that he would never see this woman again. However, he was unfortunately very mistaken. He was quite mistaken. So anyways, eventually Alex and the little cousin get to the ride, front of the line. They're led on, and it's a fun ride, and they had a good time. So they get off, and the little cousin's like, or Alex is like, hey, can you just wait here? I'm going to go to the bathroom. Alex goes in the bathroom, washes his hands, does all this stuff. He comes out, his little cousin is gone. So immediately he just gets a pit in his stomach. He's like, oh my God. Like, he starts yelling out. He's like, Ben, where are you? We're going to say the little cousin's name is Ben. Ben, like, this isn't funny, man. You can't hide from me. I can't let this happen, right? Come on, come out now. And, he started to get really nervous because, understandably he's nervous. I mean, he was tasked with taking care of this kid, and all of a sudden this kid disappears. So he starts looking around, and he yells out like, Ben. And so he just starts walking out, and he's like, oh my God. And Alex gets a buzz on his phone. He checks it. It's his mom being like, hey, can you meet us at the whatever in 10 minutes? And he's like, oh no, not just the fact that I lost him, but now I got to be there in 10 minutes. And there's no way that I can tell my mom, oh yeah, by the way, I lost our cousin. Yeah, no, I just lost him. So at this point, Alex is walking around the fair trying to just figure out where his little cousin is. And that's when he gets a glimpse of someone that he thinks is his little cousin. So he immediately runs over, and it's just like a crowd of people, a huge flood of people are walking in his direction. That basically just means he's slowed down, he's struggling to get there, he's being pushed back and all this kind of stuff. But he definitely very clearly sees that it's his little cousin. So he's like, oh my God. And he sees his little cousin, and his little cousin is like being led by someone. And he's so confused, like, who's leading him? And he looks up, it's the Karen. The Karen has the little cousin's hand and is holding it and is kind of dragging him around. Remember, the little cousin's like 3 or 4. So for all we know, the Karen said, hey, I know your mom, like, come with me. Which, first of all, bro, like, that's like the first thing my mom told me. She's like, look, white van or stranger, don't get in. They need help, like, finding their puppy. Like, don't get in, bro. Like, I'm sorry, they got candy. Don't get in, bro. I'm telling you, it's not worth it. Don't do it. So sure enough, right, Alex at this point is freaking out, which understandably, I would be freaking out too. But at least now he knows where his little cousin is. So he starts like walking the direction of the Karen. And, the Karen is like, turns around and sees Alex and starts moving away faster. The Karen is basically trying to kidnap this kid, right? So Alex turns to a security guard and says, hey, like, my little cousin, his name is Ben. He looks like this. He pulls out a photo. He's with this woman who was like talking to me earlier. She basically has like, abducted him or whatever. So the security guard takes this very seriously and says, okay, thank you. And he goes into his walkie-talkie and says, hey, if you see a kid who is about like 4 feet tall, brown hair, wearing a Buzz Lightyear shirt, with a woman about 5'5", 600 pounds, I'm just kidding, with this like glasses, shorter haircut, and a pink shirt, please stop them at security. So, I mean, that's kind of the description. And that's when, like, Alex starts going out. He starts sprinting. He starts running really fast, and he just can't find them. And he's freaking out, right? He also gave the security guard his number so he could contact him. And his mom is, like, sends a text. And Alex looks at his phone. The text says, waiting, ... At this point, Alex realizes it has been 10 minutes. And remember, his mom said, I need you to be here in 10 minutes. So at this point, right, Alex needs to be there in 10 minutes, or it needs to be at this place. He doesn't have his little brother, or not his little brother, his little cousin, and his little cousin has been abducted by the Karen. Real quick, if you made it this far into the video, comment Karen down below as the secret word of the day. I'm gonna heart as many comments I possibly can that say Karen. And also, if you want to continue supporting the channel, the best way you can do it and help the channel grow and reach new people is literally just by watching more videos. So after this one, sit down and watch more of them. And please let me know in the comment section, what are you doing while watching these videos? Like, are you drawing or trying to go to sleep or playing a video game or cleaning your room? I don't really know. I'd love to hear it. I ask every time because I am genuinely interested. Also, as I said briefly in the beginning of the video, all of these videos are on Spotify, and even if you're not a huge Spotify user, I do put these videos up at least normally about an hour before they go up on here on Spotify. So if you want to get a taste of what the story is early, go to Spotify. If you are using Spotify, follow, turn on notifications, and please rate 5 stars. And if you want to submit these stories, these are all subscriber submitted stories, go to either my Twitter or Instagram. They're both at Connor Pugs. They're both in the description of this video. Follow me and then send me a DM. If I don't get to it right away, sometimes I use stories from like I get submitted 4 months ago. I literally have used stories 4 months ago, right? So if I don't respond to it right away, don't take that the wrong way. And also sometimes I use your story and I don't even respond because I write it down. I just go straight to it. So always be checking in with the videos. With that being said, use code ConnorPugs for 10% off gamer subs. Join our Discord server, and let's get back to the story. So sure enough, right, Alex is kind of racing around, and at this point, he's really freaked out. Like, he's like, oh my God, like, what am I gonna do? Like, this is so bad. This is so bad. And that's when he gets a phone number or a call from a phone number that he doesn't recognize. He picks it up and it's kind of like, hello, and it's the security guard officer. And the security officer says, hey, can you come to section B of the place? Like the security office is section B. And he's pretty close to section B, so he immediately rushes over and goes there. So Alex very quickly rushes over to the security office at section B. He gets there and the security officer has the Karen and his little brother kind of not held captive, but asked them to wait. And he's like, are these like the two that you described? And he's like, yes. And the little brother like runs over to Alex, gives him a big hug. And he's like, dude, like, little bro, like you can't, or not little brother, cousin, sorry. He's like, little bro, you can't be going at, you can't just be like going off with random people who ask. He's like, I'm sorry, I didn't know any better. So the security officer kind of turns to the Karen. It's like, ma'am, like, can you explain this? And she's like, yes, I can. This little boy over here, and he points to Alex, was very rude to me. So rude. And he is a bad influence on his little cousin. So what I was going to do was I asked the little cousin to come with me and I was going to teach him manners, respect, how to be a gentleman. But you guys decided to stop me in my tracks before I could do that. And the security officer's like, well, you know, did you get like permission from the parents or the guardians, right? And he kind of points to Alex. Alex is like, no, I had no idea. I was searching for my little cousin for a while. And, you know, the security guard's like, okay, well, like, what did you tell the little cousin to get him to come with you? And, you know, the Karen was like, I told him I was going to teach him how to be a gentleman. And the little cousin's like, no, you said that you know my mom. And she's like, well, and the security guard's like, so, ma'am, you're telling me that you took this little boy, dragged him with you, and basically said that you knew his parents when you didn't. And the Karen's like, well, you know, things might have happened. And the security guard's like, I'm sorry, ma'am, I cannot allow you to ever come back to this place. Like, if Alex chooses to, or the family chooses to file a report, we're going to have, like, with the police, we're going to have to go with it. And she's like, what? No, this is my favorite amusement park. You can't take that away from me. You can't take that. That's cruel. You can't take that away from me. I won't allow it. I won't allow it. You don't understand. And the security guard is like, all right, ma'am, come with me. And she's like, no. And she's being dragged out. So Alex calls his mom. His mom's like, Alex, where were you? We're so worried. And Alex is like, Mom, trust me, I have a good reason for it. Tell us where to meet you, and I'll explain everything when we get there. So, you know, Alex's little brother, Alex's little cousin, I keep getting that messed up, walk over to, you know, the place that they're meeting his mom, and then, you know, the little cousin's mom is like, oh, where have you guys been? What is going on? And Alex is like, well, I have a good explanation. Here's what happened. So the subscriber we're going to call for the next Karen story is George. So anyways, right, George was working at the movies. So this was like George was a teenager. He was working on the weekends at the movies to make a little extra money. So George was working behind like the stalls. Like, I don't know if you've been to a movie theater, but if you have, you know that you can buy popcorn, you can buy candy, you can buy drinks and stuff like that. And that's actually where movie theaters really make their money. So George was like the person behind there, basically making the popcorn and ringing up the register when people would buy it. And earlier that day, a Karen and her family came in and got a lot of stuff, including some popcorn. And, she said, hey, can I have some extra butter on it? And George was like, all right, fine, that sounds cool. And he puts on the butter, he does a good job, hands over the popcorn. 2 hours later, 2 whole hours later, the Karen returns and she is not looking very happy. And the Karen walks up with an empty container, 2 empty containers of popcorn, right? And she walks on up and she's like, were you the young man who made my popcorn? And George already knows by, first of all, the tone of the Karen, the way she's walking up to him, all of this stuff. George already knows that, oh boy, this is not going to be good. So he's like, yes, I was. He's not going to lie to her, but he's not happily admitting it. And she's like, I want a refund. It was not buttery enough. And, normally when someone has a complaint about something like that, that's fine. But what George normally does is he just remakes the popcorn. He never really, I don't know. He doesn't, give a refund. And also, the situation here is a little bit different. Because the Karen came up with 2 completely empty boxes of popcorn. And, George kind of points it out. He's like, well, ma'am, it looks like maybe you didn't enjoy it the most, but you and your family enjoyed it enough to finish both boxes. And the Karen's like, that's irrelevant. We choked this popcorn down. It didn't have enough butter. And George is like, ma'am, I'm sorry. I can't really give refunds on that. Normally, if you came to me and you ate some of it and it wasn't to your liking, I would have no problem making you another thing of popcorn. However, I just can't, I can't issue you a refund because you ate all the popcorn, and then you're coming to me with an empty container asking me to give you your money back because it wasn't good enough. That's just not really how it works here. I'm sorry. And the Karen is like, what do you mean you can't give me a refund? I think you're discriminating me against because I'm your elder. Karen is 40 or something. And George is like, ma'am, what? This makes no sense. She's like, you know what? If you don't give me a refund, you're getting a discrimination lawsuit because you hate me because I'm old. That's why you're not giving me a refund. And George was just like, ma'am, that's absurd. That's obviously not the case. And she's like, you're absurd, George. And he's like, oh my God. And he looks down. Yes, he has a name tag that says George. So that caught him off guard a little bit. But, he was like, I don't know what else. I'm sorry. I just can't give this to you. It was partially, the reason why George didn't give, the refund was partially because his own, morals / ideas of how the world works. You can't go into a movie theater movie theaters don't make a ton of money, especially nowadays. This happened a little while ago, but especially nowadays. And they only make money and a little bit of money on, the food that they sell. So asking that, George, refund the food after the person ate it all just doesn't make a lot of sense. Yes, if you actually mess it up and put, I don't know, paprika spice or, hot sauce in the popcorn instead of salt and butter, sure, full refund, whatever. But he just didn't add enough butter, and he did remember putting a lot of butter in it. So he was like, okay, ma'am, no. But also the other half is his manager has a very strict, you can't give refunds unless, something terribly goes wrong. And there's, a very few, situations where that's okay. So he's like, I don't know what else to say, but I can't give this to you. And the Karen's like, you know what? George, I want to hear from your manager. And the thing is, right, George's manager was kind of strict, was kind of an older guy. He definitely did not like being bothered by George. George, respected him enough to not bother him that much also. So George was kind of unhappy that he had to pull out his phone and call up his manager. His manager picks up, he's like, what? George is like, a customer wants to speak with you. And the manager's like, can you not deal with it yourself? And George is like, I'm trying to, but she demands that she speaks with you. And the Karen is sitting there all with a big smug look on her face. The Karen probably thinks that, after this, that she will 100%, most definitely, right? That she will most definitely get a refund, and the manager will come out on his knees like, I'm so sorry, ma'am. You're so right. I'm so wrong. I'm a big idiot, and you're the smartest person ever, ma'am. I'm sorry. So the Karen's waiting there all smugly, and that's when the manager comes out. And the Karen starts yelling at the manager. She says, your employee won't give me a refund on this popcorn. He didn't put enough butter. And the manager takes one look at the Karen and looks at the fact that she is holding 2 empty popcorn containers. She has 2 empty popcorn containers. The manager said, ma'am, did you eat all that? And she's like, yes. And we choked it down. I demand a refund. Manager's just like, no. And she's taken aback. She's like, you and your employer are saying no to me because you're discriminating against me because I am an elder. And the manager's like, how old are you? And she's like, that's a rude question. I'm 48. And the manager's like, I'm 52. I'm not discriminating at you because of your age. I'm saying no because you obviously are just trying to swindle us out of our money. Ma'am, movie theaters don't really make any money. And the only money that we make, the little bit that we scrape by, is from the food. Don't try and rob us because you're too lazy, you just don't try, basically, just don't try and rob us, ma'am. I know for a fact that you ate all that popcorn and thought it was fine. If you didn't like it, you wouldn't have finished it. And then you came back here demanding a refund. That's ridiculous. Please go along your way. She's like, I'm going to tell everyone on Facebook that this is the worst movie theater ever. I'm never taking my family back here. I'm never going to do it again. And the manager's like, okay. Bet. Nice. Bye. She's like, I'm going to tell everyone on Facebook. I have so much power on Facebook. You don't even understand the amount of power I have on Facebook. I will crush you. I will crush your little tiny movie theater. You don't understand my power. And George was just standing there like, oh, well, I got a story to tell my mom if she asks me when I come back home. We're going to call the subscriber of the next story Will. So anyways, right, Will worked at an after-school gymnastics program where kids would be dropped off after school. They would learn all the whatever, right? And the end of the semester, I don't know what you'd even really call it. It was like an after-school program. At the end of the program, let's say, there was kind of like a little bit of a competition. The parents would be invited. They would be allowed to come, and they would give out prizes. They'd give out the gymnastics program award. We're just going to say that the best, the most improved award, the whatever award, it's kind of like a whatever little fun award ceremony. Not everyone got an award, but it really was not that deep. That's what you got to understand. This was a little fun after school program, and they gave out little dinky awards. And at the end of the day, it simply was not that deep, okay? It just was not that deep. But anyways, right, so, who was Will? Sorry, forgot who the name we were using. So anyways, right, Will worked at the place after school. It was a good, little after-school job. He himself was a gymnast, and he was going to college to be a gymnast. So doing this for his senior year was kind of fun, and he got a little money on the side as well. So he was teaching all the kids, and there was this one kid who we're going to call Ben. And Ben was a cool, he was fine. He was a cool kid. He did what he needed to do, but he just didn't win any of the awards because even before the show, they kind of just decided who was going to win the awards. At the end of the day, the show was just kind of to show off to the parents and to allow the parents to see a little bit of what their kids learned. And then right after is the award ceremony or whatever. And sure enough, right, one thing about the awards you got to know is it's normally they try and give out awards to kids when it's their first time showing up. So if kids have been coming to the camp for 7 years, they're probably not going to give them the award. The reason for this is the reason why they give out these awards is kind of an incentive, for kids to come back. Because a kid, it's their first year there, they have a fun time, and then they get an award. Mom, I want to come back to gymnastics camp. But if a kid's been coming for a while, they're like, we'll give it to someone new anyways. So sure enough, right, Will hands out this award. Or no, sorry, I skipped ahead. So sure enough, right, the parents come in. Will greets them at the door. It's like, hello, everyone. Welcome to the gymnastics show. Hands out these little fake flyers or whatever. And all the parents line up in the gym / auditorium in a row of seats. And sure enough, one by one or in pairs, kids come out and they do whatever they're doing. Some kids are just doing handstands or I don't know, like very low skill acrobatics. I don't even know if I can do a handstand. Don't take that as offense, right? However, some others come out and they do something more advanced, and it's a whole range of things. Because, anyone's allowed to come to this camp. So kids who have no experience, kids who are really good, whole range. And they wanted to show off this whole range, right? So, sure enough, right, all the parents are clapping. Everyone's very happy. And then Will is up there with his other camp counselors doing the rest of the award ceremony. So they get up there and they're like, all right, so to the most improved goes to so-and-so, and everyone claps. The funniest guy or the funniest camper award goes to so-and-so. Everyone claps, right? The most improved goes to so-and-so. Everyone claps. The overall model camper award goes to so-and-so. Clap, clap, clap. And the gymnastics cup goes to so-and-so. Everyone's clapping, right? And the one thing you got to know is that Ben's name was not called. Ben didn't really care that much. He got it last year, so he thought that was cool. And he's like, okay, whatever. Someone else can get it. But you know who was very happy about Ben getting it last year? Ben's Karen mom. He really liked it. He really liked the fact that, he got an award last year. So you immediately see someone stand up in the auditorium, and it is Ben's mom, a.k.a. the Karen, and scream out, "Is that all the awards?" And Will was like, yep, that's... First of all, this is very weird. Like, parents don't normally scream out and, talk. But Will, who's thinking on his feet, is like, yep, that's all the awards for this year, folks. I just want to say thank you, everyone, for coming. You can also pick up a little your kids' journals, because every single day they do a little journaling or whatever. They're in the back of the auditorium. You can also come talk to us if you want any one-on-one coaching. Our coaches that are available are over, and you hear the Karen say, "Are you sure there's no more awards?" Will has just been interrupted twice. He's like, "Yes, ma'am, this is it for our programming. Once again, thank you guys so much for coming." And then you hear, "The awards have been rigged. The whole award show is rigged." And Will is just like, "What?" And everyone kind of turns around to look at this woman. And she starts stomping her, boom, 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 boom. She starts stomping her way up to the front. And everyone's like, oh my God. She gets up on stage. She goes up, and Will is so, shocked. He is so just, taken aback by everything that's happening that he basically willingly lets the Karen snatch the microphone out of his hand. She takes the microphone, and she's like, "Yeah, I want to let you know that the award ceremony is rigged. Last year, my son won the Model Camper Award, and this year I know for a fact that he was not just a model camper, he was the best model camper at this camp because he was twice as good as he was last year. And I want to let you know that whatever fraud went down will not be tolerated." And she turns out and she says, "I don't know who won the model camper this year. It was some kid. We'll call him Steve. But I know for a fact that his parents bribed you." And she turns around and points at Will. And Will grabs the microphone back and is like, "Ma'am, this is ridiculous. The awards are a little token that we give out at the end of the year. This is not some big crazy thing." And the Karen snatches the microphone back. It's like, "No, you don't understand. This is a really big deal, and you're just not appreciating how much I care about this. You don't understand anything. You don't understand." And she starts running off stage. It's like, "Oh, Ben, come with me. We're never coming back to this stupid camp ever again." Grabs him by the scruff of his neck. Remember, Ben doesn't care. He doesn't care if he wins the award or not. That is not what is important to him. And he's like, "Okay, Mom, whatever you want." And so at this point, what I call him, Will is kind of like, "Okay, everyone, well, that was kind of weird." And everyone kind of laughs a little bit. But just so you know, thank you so much for having your kids with us. I'm sure they had a great time. And the thing is, next year came around, and Ben showed up again. And Will, next year, because Will is now a counselor, first year in college, but he came back for the summer, so we did the summer program. And he's like, "Ben, I didn't think I'd see you here again." And he's like, "Yeah, well, my mom, it took me a while, but I used this as kind of my birthday present to be allowed back here. And my mom, not really wanting to get me a real birthday present was fine with that." And Will's like, "Yeah, okay, well, I don't know if we can allow her back at the award show. And Ben's like, you know what? I was thinking about that. So I told her the award show is being held on Saturday. They hold it on the Friday, right? And she's just going to show up to an empty auditorium. So everything will be okay. And Will
Click
was
on the
like,
video
"Oh,
on screen
smart
right
guy."
now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it. Do it.
How's it going, everyone? I hope you're having a great day, because today we have a story of one of the craziest airport Karens of all time. Yes, this is the first time telling a crazy Karen story about a Karen in the airport. So anyways, sit back, relax, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and we're going to call the subscriber who submitted this story Leah. So anyways, this all happened when Leah was on vacation over the summer, and this happened a couple years ago, and Leah and her family were going to Florida, I think. And so anyways, Leah and her family, they pull up in like the van that like brought them over. They walk out of the van with their bags, and they're walking towards the station, the kind of like terminal. They go to the terminal, they check in, and they check in their bags. And now at this point, there's this thing. If you guys haven't been to the airport, which I think most of you guys have, there's this thing called there's this thing called like the TSA, at least, and that's what it's called in the United States. Kind of like a check before you go into the actual airport. They just got to scan you to make sure you're not bringing anything that you shouldn't be bringing along. So this line is normally pretty long, and what they do is they make you a lot of times to make you take off your shoes, empty your bags, empty your pockets, just so they can scan everything and make sure it's all set. So anyways, like Leah and her family got in this line, and right in front of her was someone that she did not know was going to be such a big part of her life for the next couple hours. This was the Karen, but they didn't know this at this point. So anyways, Leah and her family are standing behind the Karen in line. And so eventually they get to the part of the line where they have to put their stuff in the bins, scan it through, walk through the big scanner, and then eventually put their stuff back on. So if you don't know, you have to take off your shoes because people can like hide stuff in their shoes and they need to be scanned individually. And the Karen in front of them, was about to walk through without her shoes on. So the person like in the TSA was like, "Hey ma'am, can you please take off your shoes?" And she's like, "Do you know how long it would take for me to take off my shoes and put them back on? Like, that is such a big ask." And the TSA person's like, "Ma'am, I'm so sorry, but like, I don't know what to say. You kind of just have to take off your shoes, bro. Like, I don't know how else to say it. That's just something you kind of have to do, you know?" And she's like, "I'm not doing it." And they're like, "Man, we can't let you through if you don't take off your shoes." And then she's like, "Well, you let that person go without their shoes on." And she points to someone on the other side. And the TSA dude's like, "Ma'am, that person already went through without their shoes on. They've just put their shoes back on because they've already went through." And the Karen's like, "This is an outrage. Fine, I will take off my shoes so that I can go on my great vacation that you're not going on. But just know that I'm filing a complaint against this airport and about forcing women to take off shoes and not men." And the TSA dude's like, "Nope, everyone has to take off their shoes. Not just you or women, trust me." And she's like, "You know what? Your supervisor and your manager will know about this. Have fun with your job while you have it." Which obviously, yeah, this guy is just having a great time at his TSA job. This is definitely what he wants to be doing, right? And he definitely wants to just be, picking and choosing, like, who gets to take off their shoes and who gets to be a threat, who gets to be a risk. Of course, bro, of course. So anyways, Leah and her parents kind of look at each other like while this whole thing is happening, like, "Oh my God, this woman's the worst, dude." But the thing is, right, some people have nerves when they fly. Some people are just cranky because, who knows? Maybe this Karen has been like on 17 connecting flights and Delta's like, "Well, actually, we're going to reroute you through the North Pole. It'll get you there much slower, but sorry, L. Take the L, bro." Because I don't know, stuff like that really does happen. I had a pretty bad plane or a plane experience or flying experience, which I might even turn to a story because you guys like stories coming from me, not just subscribers sometimes. But anyways, so Leah and her family goes to the TSA part, and things are pretty good. Life's pretty good. They get through pretty nice and easy. I mean, they take off their shoes without making a massive fuss about it because they're good people, bro. I don't know how else to say it. But anyways, they get through and, they have about an hour until their flight starts to board. So Leah and her parents find somewhere to get some food. They stop by. They look around. Airplane food is never the greatest, but, they find a place that's all right. And then they go sit in kind of like the section where their plane is going to be, or where they're going to start boarding. And they see the Karen that was in front of them in line complaining about shoes sitting in their section. So, Leah just thinks to herself, well, okay, the Karen's probably, on the flight with us, like whatever. Leah doesn't really think anything of it because at this point, all the Karen has done is kind of made a fuss and been a little weird. Actually, a little more than a little weird. She threatened to, tell his manager that, he forced her to take off her shoes, which, what's the manager going to do? Give him a bonus for, doing what he's supposed to be doing? I'm really confused at this point. But anyways, Leah doesn't think anything of it. And this is when there's an announcement. An announcement being hey, basically saying that, hey, flight whatever has been delayed. And the flight that they're talking about is the flight that they're on. It's going to be another hour. Sorry about the inconvenience. And at this point, Leah and her parents are kind of that sucks, but what are we going to do about it? So Leah and her parents are all right, well, I guess, I don't know. I guess if we want to get food or something, because they already got food, but if they want to get snacks or something for the flight or anything like that, And sure enough, they're just kind of they're going around, they're walking around. But before any of that happens, when the announcement is made that the flight has been canceled, the Karen takes both of her fists and slams it multiple times on the the armchair. She goes, bum, 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 bum. Which, I get it. It's frustrating. Trust me, I was just in a very, very, very frustrating airline experience. I get it. But, bro, it's not as if no one else is in this situation. It's not as if, you're the only one here who has to deal with this. But, whatever. But that's not the only thing Karen does. If you just kind of reacted angrily and kind of slammed your fists, I would kind of look at you a little funny, but I wouldn't really care. At the end of the day, you do you. It doesn't really matter. However, the Karen went above and beyond because she immediately got up and she went to the front desk. And Leah was listening as the Karen says, we have to wait another hour here? The front desk person's ma'am, I'm sorry, I can't control it. She's this is outrageous. Where is your manager? Which, bro, I swear to God, it sometimes is the Karen. The Karen is always going to be where's your manager? But in this situation, it literally, it just doesn't. It just doesn't work here because you really think the person behind the front desk is controlling when the planes come in? She's just... This woman's just telling you when. She's just an announcer, bro. I don't know how else to say it. She's just announcing the times that are told to her. If you want to, go to the manager, go to the person flying the plane. Go to the plane's manager, dude. Anyways, right? Anyways. So sure enough, the Karen gives this woman at the front desk a really hard time about how she's not cooperating and she's the reason why, the Karen is getting less hours at her epic vacation or whatever, the greatest vacation ever. And Leah is just is just looking at this and she's wow, this woman sucks, bro. I don't know how else to say it. She sucks. Because at this point, right, the Karen has been berating the person at the front desk because it's her fault that, the plane is late, which, okay, obviously it's not her fault that the plane is late, dude. Do you really think she has any control? But anyways, Leah and her parents, they go and they walk around a little bit. They grab some snacks for the plane, and then they go back because now it is finally time for, to get in line. So basically, right, if you don't know, there's a lot of different ways that the, planes load on. The airline that they were flying, they already had assigned seats. So everyone on the flight had assigned seats. Some airlines work it's just first come, first serve, which I think is a pretty bad system. You just sit wherever. I don't know. I'm not a fan of it. I like knowing where I'm sitting beforehand and kind of guaranteeing me that I have a seat. But this flight, you got a guaranteed seat. So you were sitting in row 6A or whatever. You basically got a guaranteed seat, which was pretty cool. But anyways, right, so the other thing is it's the overhead space where you put your bags. That isn't guaranteed. So some people want to get in there earlier to make sure that they have some overhead space. So with your ticket, you're in section A, B, C, D, or E. And, they'll tell you hey, if you're in section A, only only people in section A start lining up now. If you're in section B or C, we will turn you away. I'm sorry, that's just how it works here. So anyways, right, they call, okay, section A. And Leah notices, next to her or a couple seats down, that the Karen immediately gets up and starts power walking to the front of the line. And, at this point, Leah's like, oh, I guess the Karen's in section A, because one would assume if you're this like forcefully getting up and running over to be in line that, for section A, that, I don't know, that you're probably in section A or something like that. And, sure enough, she gets up there and Leah watches, and the person scans her ticket or looks at her ticket and is like, ma'am, you're in section C. Like, you got to wait for that. And the Karen's like, does it really matter? And, the person's like, well, I mean, if I let you go through, then, like, literally anyone else, like, there is no point to the A, B, C, D section, like, system. Like, I'm sorry, just, like, could you just wait a second? You have an assigned seat, and we have plenty of overhead space. Like, it's just protocol. I just got to do what I got to do. And at this point, the Karen's like, so the first thing you do is stall the airplane an hour, and the second thing is you demand that I sit down after I already stood up and brought all my stuff here. Like, your supervisor / manager is going to hear all about this. Which, once again, all you're telling the manager is that this woman has been doing her job perfectly, like that she's actually been following rules to a T, which you're supposed to be doing when you're working with masses of, like, huge quantities of people, right? And having to, like, sort them and deal with them. And if you're part of a massive system that could easily fall apart, that you really do have to follow the rules. So the fact that she's following the rules, bro, I think she's getting a bonus if the Karen quote-unquote reports her to the manager of... The manager of what? The airlines? I don't know, dude. But anyways, right, she's eventually told to go back, and then Karen is outraged at this point. She is furious, and so Group B is called, and then Group C is called, and Leah happens to be in Group C as well. So Leah and her family get up, and the Karen gets up as well, and they happen to be right behind the Karen in line. So when the Karen passes by the ticket person or the front desk person once again, and, she hands in the ticket, she's like, can I go in now, ma'am? Kind of says it in a snarky, sarcastic way because she was turned away just like 20 minutes ago. Or like 10 minutes ago, really. And the front desk person says, yes, it is Group C's time to board. And Karen's like, that's what I thought. It's just like, what? Did you get her here, bro? I don't think that's a got you moment. But anyways, like Lee and her family, they scan their tickets as well. And as they're walking in, so I don't know if you guys have been on an airplane before, but in the very front are first class tickets. They're really expensive, but they also give you more room. You get more on-flight amenities. It's just a better situation. I've never flown it personally. I don't know if that's necessarily worth the money. I don't know. I just don't think so. But, some people do. If you fly business a lot, maybe you can get your company to pay for it, which would be pretty sweet. But anyways, right, Leah and, the Karen are passing by the first class tickets or seats. And that's when the Karen, like, stops someone at the front. Because, like, there's flight attendants on the plane, and there's multiple flight attendants, and then there's one at the front when you start boarding on. And she's like, ma'am, I request one of the first class tickets. Yes, you heard me right. The Karen just said that she, quote-unquote, requests a first class seat as she's sitting on the airplane. Real quick comment, Karen, if you made it this far into the video, I'm going to try and heart a bunch of comments of people who dropped that secret word of the day. I just want to see how many people made it this far into the video. And then also, if you want to support the channel, maybe right after this video or in a little bit, sit down and watch a bunch of videos in one sitting or in one viewing. But watching like 2-3 plus videos is called like binge watching, and it really does help out the channel. Also, please let me know in the comment section down below what you're doing while watching the videos. Are you like playing a video game? Are you like doing some artwork or something like that? Or you're cleaning your room? Do these videos help you go to bed? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'll heart it. And just thanks again to everyone who's watched this far or binge watches the videos. Thanks for all the support recently. Let's get back to the story. So right, so Leah and the Karen, they walk onto the plane, and as they're about to pass by the first class seats, the Karen stops the flight attendant, which also stops the entire line, by the way. It's not like everyone else has room to move around the Karen. Probably the Karen wouldn't even let people move around her. You're not allowed to take my seat that's already, claimed for me. But anyways, right, so the Karen's like, I demand a first class seat for all my troubles. And the flight attendant's like, ma'am, you can't change your seat at this late. Like, you could have changed in the terminal if, like, we said that there's, like, an ability to switch seats at this point. But all these seats have been claimed. You can't just choose these seats. I'm sorry. And the flight attendant is right in this situation. Of course, you can't just claim seats, but the Karen's like, I went through so much troubles. When I was going through the TSA line, they made me take off my shoes. And then when I got here, I had to wait another 45 minutes because someone at the front desk decided that we couldn't go on. And then I went up and they said that I couldn't board yet because I was in the wrong boarding group. And now you're telling me that for all my troubles, I can't have a measly first class seat? Which, by the way, the first class seat's like 3 times as expensive, and they're already filled. And the Karen just described, and the flight attendant goes on to say, I'm sorry, ma'am, we can't do that. But also, you kind of just described the situation that literally everyone else on this plane has been in. They all have to take their shoes off when they go through TSA pre-check. They all had to deal with the 45-minute delay. Like, if they went up before their group was called, they would be turned back. Like, if I give it to you, I'd have to give it to everyone because you guys are all in the same situation, and there are no first-class seats, not even one, to go around at this point. And, the flight attendant's like, I'm sorry, this is just what happens when you fly. And the Karen's like, fine, have it your way. So anyways, the Karen starts stopping off and starts walking down the aisle or whatever. And Leah and her parents are walking behind her because I guess they have seats near where she is. And they're kind of just looking at each other like, oh my God, this girl is crazy. Okay, she's not a girl. She's like 50 years old or something. This woman's crazy. This Karen's crazy, bro. But anyways, they keep walking down. And all of a sudden, right, so there's 2 people. So in a lot of airplanes, there are 3 seats. There's the window, which is really close, which you can look out the window. There's the middle, which is kind of the most cramped and in between. And then there's the aisle, which basically gives you a lot of leg room on either your left or right side. The aisle seat is normally the one that is the most sought after, whatever. And the window seat's pretty cool, but you're still pretty cramped. And the middle seat's normally the worst. But that's some people might like it, but that's general preference, right? Most people just feel that way. I don't know how else to say it. So the Karen gets to her seat, right? The Karen gets to her seat. And there's someone in the window and there's someone in the aisle. And the Karen says, move over. He talks to this this kind of like this older man or whatever. She's like, move over to the older man. She didn't even say, hey, I think that's my seat, anything like that. Yada, yada. Like, she doesn't say anything along those lines. She literally just says, move over. And Leah and her parents are listening to the whole thing because they can't move until the Karen has sit down. And the older man's like, I think this is my seat. And he pulls out his ticket. And it clearly shows that, because it shows on the ticket where you're sitting, like A, B, or C, like in the row. And it very clearly shows that he's in the aisle seat, right? It's very incredibly clear. So, at this point, right, the Karen's like, I don't care. I've had a long day. Move over. And the old man's like, ma'am, I really do need this seat. I can't, be on a flight for that long and somewhere cramped like that. I specifically got this ticket so that I get the aisle seat. In fact, I could have gotten, a seat farther up, but I would have gotten middle or window, but I just couldn't, so I got the aisle seat. And he said, I really can't give it over to you. Because this guy was 65. It's understandable. And the Karen's like, what? But I'm asking you nicely. Which she was not asking nicely. She is just demanding, right? Demanding angrily and asking nicely are not the same thing. Believe it or not. I know. Freaking crazy, bro. But anyways, right? So, Lee and her parents kind of look at each other. And they're kind of just like, And so a flight attendant starts to walk down towards them because they're like, what's going on? What's the holdup here? And this is when the Karen goes really out of line. She's like, I want the aisle seat and I want it now. And the old man's like, ma'am, I'm so sorry. I'm not going to budge on this. So the Karen takes both of her hands and starts pushing the old man. He's like, oh, I'm unstable. Stop. She's like, meh. Starts pushing, bum, 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 bum. Because the Karen wants what the Karen wants. And she's going to get what the Karen wants, right? And she's like, move over. And goes, push. And the old man's like, stop it. You're hurting me. And that's when the flight attendant, literally, walks over and, gets in between them. She's like, ma'am, we're going to have to ask you to leave. And the Karen's like, what? And they're like, we're going to ask you to, legitimately leave the airplane. We're going to walk you off for assaulting another passenger. And the Karen's like, no, it's fine. I'll take the middle seat. And they're like, man, like you were literally attacking this other passenger who's an older man, right? And the old man's like, ouch. And she's like, it's fine. I'll take the middle seat. I don't need the aisle seat anymore. And they're like, ma'am, you don't understand. You're not on this airplane anymore. This is like one of the rules that you like agreed to that you wouldn't break. Oh, I mean, attacking someone is pretty obvious of a rule, but I guess not for the Karen. That's all I'm going to say. Not for the Karen, bro. Not for the Karen. But anyways, right, at this point, the Karen's like, you guys are so funny. So funny. I will take the middle seat. Don't worry. I'll be the bigger person here. I'll take the middle seat. You don't even need to worry. And they're like, ma'am, you don't understand. This isn't like a debate. We're asking you to leave the flight or we're going to remove you. And the Karen, when she hears this, is like, this is outrageous. You don't understand that your manager is going to hear all about this and you're all going to get fired. And then the Karen starts pointing to people on the plane. You're going to get fired. You're going to get... And she's pointing to a bunch of passengers too. Turns around to Leah, points at her. Leah's like a 14-year-old girl. You're going to get fired. I'm going to contact all of your managers and I'm going to have a word with all of them. And so two flight attendants are like, they're both slowly pushing the Karen out. And she's like, you won't hear the end of this. This won't be the end of you hearing about me. All of your managers will know my name. I will be in all their inboxes and they will hear all about the evil crimes you've committed against me. So anyways, and then the Karen is like dragged off plane at this point. So Leah and her parents are just like, oh my God. They sit down at their seat. And they're just like, wow, well, I guess I guess we got travel stories if anyone
Click on
ever
the video on
asks.
screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it. Do it.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today I have a story of a crazy Karen mom who tries to ruin her own son's wedding. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. It's pretty crazy. I know you'll enjoy it. So sit back, relax, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let's call the subscriber who submitted this story Brian. Real quick, I made a Twitter account last night, and I'm seeing if we can get it to 1,000 followers within the day. So go and follow my Twitter at Connor Pugs. A screenshot is on screen right now. Yeah, go do it. Anyways, let's get into the story. So this is probably one of my older subscribers who submitted this story because his name is Brian, and a couple years ago he married this girl named Kate, and they started dating a while ago. And when they started dating, Brian's mom was not a fan of Kate, and the thing was, Kate didn't have like a troubled background or she didn't have an extreme personality or anything. Kate was like the most standard like girl ever. Like imagine like your mom's perfect idea for someone to marry. That was basically Kate. To this day, Brian still has no idea why like his mom really hated Kate, but Brian's mom despised Kate from the first day that, she came over. The first day that she came over, Brian was introducing, Kate to his family. And, Brian's mom was just like really cruel to her at the dinner table. Like she was asking really weird questions. Like they were in college at that time. She's like, oh, what's your GPA? And when she said something that was pretty good, she's like, I did better in school. Like, what's your major? And Kate said her major, and she's like, so you're just going to college for fun, huh? So anyways, right, Brian's mom has never been a fan of Kate for a very long time. However, that doesn't matter because Brian himself has been a fan of Kate for a while. By the way, you can listen to all these stories on Spotify. It's Connor Pugs. It's also in the description. Please rate it 5 stars. Anyway, so Brian continued to date Kate, and, Kate and Brian decided that they were going to be, kind of like lifetime partners. And Brian called up his parents before asking Kate to marry him. And, Brian's dad was happy for him. Brian's dad didn't really care. In fact, like Brian's dad was separated from Brian's mom, so it's not like Brian's mom was able to convince him otherwise. Brian's dad was happy for Brian, said, hey, but like, that's so great. I'm so excited for you. But Brian was about to call his mom, and he just knew that it just wasn't going to go down well. So Brian calls up his mom, and he explains that he's going to marry Kate. And Brian's mom's like, Brian, this is a great mistake. I'm telling you. I just have a gut feeling that, like, she's terrible for you, and she's going to cause ruin. Look, I've spoken on this channel a lot about, like, trust your gut instincts. Like, it's a good idea, but don't always do that. sometimes you have preconceived notions about people or biases that just are really not rooted in reality. And so trust your gut most of the times, but in this case, this was not a time to. And Brian says, like, Mom, like, I've been in a relationship with this girl for 4 years now. We've gone through ups and downs, and I am now at this point very confident I want to marry her. And, Brian's mom's like, I won't allow it. And, Brian's family wasn't like some crazy traditional family or anything where it's like, oh, it's your parents must say yes or it can't happen. So Brian was like, okay, I'm sorry you don't like it. I'm just telling you because I have respect for you and I want you to know what's going to happen and I want you to be in my life. And Brian's mom's like, fine, I understand I can't do anything about it, but just so you know, I'm not going to be much nicer to her now that she's your wife or fiance. And Brian's like, okay, well, I'd like you to, but I guess I can't control you either. So Brian hung up pretty angrily, but the rest of the day was pretty good because he eventually, proposed to Kate, and, life was seeming pretty good. They start planning their wedding, and, Brian is like, maybe we have a small wedding without my mother. And Kate's like, Brian, I know your mother hates me, but I need, like, I know that you'll want her there. Like, I know that we'll want everyone who we love to be at our wedding. And Brian's like, okay, just want to say, like, can't say I didn't warn you on this one. She's like, yes, I know. It's going to be something. It's going to be very hard. I am aware, but, we need to invite her. So Brian eventually called up his mother and is like, hey, Mom, I just want to let you know, the wedding, you're formally invited. It's going to be on these dates. And Brian's mom is like, fine, I guess I'll show up. And Brian in his head is like, dude, I didn't even want to invite you because I knew that you're going to have crazy attitude problems. But Kate is insistent and, she makes a good point and, she's always right. So fine. And he's like, okay, well, here's the dates. Show up if you want. And Brian's mom's like, fine, I'll find room in my busy schedule. Like, dude, this is your own son's wedding. Your busy schedule will revolve around this, or it should at least. So anyways, let's skip ahead to kind of like the couple days of the wedding. So if you don't know, there's like a recital dinner or like a rehearsal dinner, actually, is what I meant to say, where a lot of weddings will have like a dinner before, where they have the bride, the groom, and most people invited at the wedding will get together at some restaurant or some place, and they'll all like sit around a table and eat dinner. And it's not like I don't know if it's like official part of like every wedding ceremony, but anyways, Brian and Kate decided to have this, and so anyways, they picked a spot that was like a restaurant that was close to the place of where the wedding was going to be the next day, and all the guests were kind of like funneling in. They had their assigned seats. And everyone got there except, Brian's mom. And Brian was kind of confused on what was happening. And that's when this was the first instance. What am I trying to say? This is the first example of Brian's mom being a crazy Karen. Because what happens, right, is Brian realizes, oh, the seat where my mom has reserved for her is empty. I wonder where she is. And that's when Brian hears a noise, a chant, like, Brian and Kate can't get married. Brian and Kate shouldn't be married. Brian and Kate can't get married. Brian and Kate shouldn't be married. On like that from like the hallway. And Brian is like, what? He's just so confused because he's like, who's chanting that like me and my soon-to-be wife can't and shouldn't be married? This is ridiculous. And that's when Brian's mother marches into the room with a poster board with a photo of it's a photo of Brian and Kate expanded so it's big and printed out with a big X through it, and it says cancel the marriage on the top and cancel the marriage on the bottom. And she starts walking around chanting, Brian and Kate can't be married. Brian and Kate shouldn't be married. Cancel the marriage. Cancel the marriage. Cancel the marriage. Cancel the marriage. And starts hopping around like a giddy schoolgirl. Cancel the marriage. Cancel the marriage. Cancel the marriage. And at this point, right, all the guests are kind of like, oh my God, what's good? They're all kind of mumbling about each other. And that's when, Brian is like, Mom, he stands up. He's like, what is this? And Brian's mom's like, oh, Brian, sweetie, I'm here as your mother, and I'm doing my duty as the mother. Cancel the marriage. Cancel the marriage. Cancel the marriage. Cancel the marriage. And Brian's like, Mom, what are you doing? This is insane. And she's like, no. You know what is insane, buddy? Is this marriage? Cancel the marriage. Cancel the marriage. Brian's like, Mom, stop. Like I invited you here because this is like our big day and I wanted you to be a part of it. You're like, I invited you to the dinner so that we could have a nice conversation and maybe you and Kate can reconcile your differences. And Brian's mom's like, oh, that's never going to happen. Cancel the marriage. Cancel the marriage. Cancel the marriage. Cancel the marriage. And Brian's like, oh, my God. So he walks over and he's like, Mom, if you're not going to eat dinner with us, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. And she's like, you're kicking out your own mother from the dinner before the wedding? From the rehearsal dinner? You would do that? And Brian's like, well, yes, if you continue walking around with a poster board with an X through me and my fiance's face screaming, cancel the marriage. Brian and Kate can't be married. Brian and Kate shouldn't be married. Like, Mom, what? That chant isn't even that good. What's going on here? At this point, right, she's like, fine, I'm going to go protest outside. So Brian's Karen mom starts walking out being like, cancel the marriage, cancel the marriage. Brian and Kate can't be married. Brian and Kate shouldn't be married. And they're like legitimately like, she stands outside of the restaurant and you can hear faintly, because everyone's super quiet after she leaves for like a minute. And you can hear very faintly, Brian and Kate can't be married. Brian and Kate can't be married. Cancel the wedding. Cancel the wedding. At this point, Brian kind of like stands up and is like, hey guys, I'm sorry for that. Like, my mom's a little crazy. Like, ha ha ha. Everyone kind of laughs a little bit, both because it was kind of a funny situation, but mostly because it was an incredibly awkward situation. They're all like, yeah, I remember when that happened at my wedding. Not. So anyways, Brian sat down, and Brian and Kate and some other very close family members near them discussed the wedding tomorrow. And Brian's like, oh my God, I can't believe my mother's doing this. I was on the fence of inviting her, and Kate's like, I'm so sorry for making you do that. And Brian's like, no. You had really good intentions. You wanted all the people we love to be here, and you did what was right. He said, now we just got to make sure that, the wedding goes off without a hitch. And let me just say that was not the case. In fact, that Karen was about to pull off one of the craziest heists in Karen history, believe it or not. Real quick, if you made it this far into the video, comment Karen down below. I'm going to try and heart a bunch of comments to say Karen. I'm just curious to see the names and faces of people who made it this far. Also, if you want to continue supporting the channel or to help boost me in the algorithms, right, of YouTube, all you got to do is just keep on watching these videos after this one, or maybe at a later point in the day. Just keep watching the videos. It really does help. Lots of watch time helps the channel. And please let me know in the comment section both how many videos you watched or are planning to watch today, and then also what are you doing while watching the videos. For example, some people have been telling me that watching my videos helps them go to sleep. And honestly, sleep's a hard thing. It's an important thing, so I'm honored that I can help you do that. And by the way, just a few things. If you want to submit your own stories, go to my Instagram at ConnorPugs. That's where you can DM me the stories. Please follow the new Twitter account. I'd love to get 1,000 followers in a day, and that's one of the best ways I can talk to you guys. Join the Discord server, and also make sure that if you want to listen on Spotify that you do, and rate me 5 stars on there, follow, turn on notifications, all that good stuff. And I think that's all the plugging I have to do. Leave a like in the video for your free nothing. I'm bringing that back. And let's just get back to the stories, guys. Also, code ConnorPugs 10% off gamer subs. Please buy it. It's helping you out and helping me out. Anyway, so Brian and Kate are kind of worried. And they go to bed, and they're in the same bed, and Kate kind of rolls over and is like, Brian, I'm worried about your mom. Brian's like, me too. And he says, you know what? This is our day. For the next 24 hours, let's make sure that we remember that this is our day. This is not my mom's day. This is not Uncle Joe's day. This is not your day or my day. It is our day. And let's make sure that everyone knows that, no matter what my mom does. And Brian says, hey, the security guards we hired? I'm going to tell them that if my mom does anything crazy or tries to run on stage and punch you in the face, and Kate kind of gets nervous. He's like, I don't think she's actually going to do that. But if she does, they'll make sure that she's banned, that they'll take care of it, and they'll ban her from the wedding, and we don't even have to worry about it. And Kate felt a little bit more reassured, and they went to bed. The next day, they wake up, and it's their wedding day. It's huge, it's stressful, it's awesome. It is all the life and emotion that, it encapsulates the human spirit. You'll love to see it. And sure enough, right, the day of the wedding, they get there. There's all these people rushing around, the bridesmaids, the hair, the makeup, the best man, all that kind of good stuff. People are in the lunchroom because people are getting like buffet style lunch before the wedding. It's awesome. It's cool. You'll love to see it, all this fun stuff. And that's when someone runs up to Brian and says, "Hey, Brian, bad news." And Brian's like, "Oh my God, there's no way." And the guy's like, "Look, we put the wedding rings, we put them aside in this drawer last night. The whole place was locked up, and then when we came here this morning, we opened it up, and the wedding rings were still there. And then I just went back like 10 minutes ago, and the wedding rings, they're gone. Brian, I don't know what happened. The wedding rings are gone." Sorry, I just took a sip of water so my voice doesn't explode. And he's like, "What do you mean the rings are gone?" He's like, "Dude, I don't know. I came here this morning. They were still here, but I checked in 10 minutes ago, and they're gone. They're gone, Brian." So Brian's like, "All right, check the security camera footage." And so anyways, Brian calls up one of the people who work there, one of the staff, and they're like, "Hey, the rings just got stolen. We need to check the cameras." And they're like, "Oh my God, 100%, like right away." And they had about an hour before the wedding, so there's a little bit of buffer time, but Brian, under no circumstances, was going to tell Kate during this time of massive stress for her, right before the wedding, right? He was not going to tell her that the rings have been stolen. That is just simply not going to happen. So Brian and the security guard and the guy who came over to tell him that the rings were gone, they all rushed over, and they all rushed over to the place where they have the footage, and they look at it, and Brian, in his head, he thinks that there's a chance that it was like someone stealing from them. He thinks that there's a chance that, I don't know, like that someone was like, I don't know, trying to steal the rings. But Brian knew deep down it was his mother trying to sabotage the wedding, as she tried to do last night. And sure enough, you see the security camera. It's Brian's mom. She walks over, opens up the drawer, looks in both directions, takes the rings, and runs away, right? So immediately Brian's like, "All right, find my mom." And his mom was sitting in like the lunchroom. She got her buffet lunch, and she was sitting alone at the table. Because after last night's charade of like the Brian and Kate shouldn't be married, cancel the wedding, cancel. After that whole nonsense, right? Not a lot of the people at at the wedding really wanted to be friends with her or wanted to get to know her story. They just didn't feel like, they didn't want to spend the energy on that. So she was sitting alone. And, sure enough, Brian goes up to her and says, "Hey, Mom, is there anything you want to tell me by chance? Like anything you want me to know?" And Brian's mom's like, "No, I'm just sitting here and I want to say the food's very nice. I just wanted to say that. I like the food a lot." And Brian just looks at her and he's just like, "Mom, I know what you did." She's like, "What? What did I do?" "I don't know what I did. Do you know what I did?" And he's like, "Yes, Mom, there's security cameras." And she's like, "Oh." And he's like, "Mom, how could you steal the wedding rings on the day of my wedding? Like, that's insane." And she's like, "I'm doing all of this for you. You can't see it. You don't understand that witch has put a spell on you. And she's going to take all your money and your organs and sell them on the black market." And he's just like, "What? Mom, what?" So at this point, Brian's like, "Mom, I only have 45 minutes before the wedding starts. Just tell us where the rings are. We won't make a fuss about this." And she's like, "No, I'm doing this for you, Brian. You should know." And Brian immediately reaches in her purse, goes in the hidden pocket that he knows about because this is his mom, like kind of fumbles around there for a second, finds the two rings. She's like, "Brian, take your filthy little paw out of my purse." And then Brian pulls out the two rings out of her purse, and she's like, turns around, she's like, "This boy stole from me." And Brian's like, "Mom, shut it. Like, the two security guards that you were yelling at were the ones that showed me the security tape where you stole these two rings that are in my hand from me. Like, can you just let me have a day with my fiance? Mom, this isn't your day. This is not your day. This is my day. Like, you have to understand that." this is my day, and you need to let me have my day, and you need to stop trying to ruin this for all of us. You're invited to the ceremony, but you are one bad move from being kicked out. From last night to this shenanigans, you're on very, very, very thin ice, and I need you to know that. And, when he was saying that, Brian, kind of mistakenly put the 2 rings down on the table. I mean, he didn't think anything of it, but he was just put them down. And the thing is, his mom might have been a Karen, but she didn't have the typical Karen build of 600,000 pounds and evil. She was actually still pretty relatively fit. She'd go to her little yoga thing every week or something. And so, Brian's mom was like, wait, what's that what's going on over there? The oldest trick in the book, I'm telling you, the oldest trick in the book, and both Brian and the guy he was with will turn around. Brian's mom snatches both of the rings, gets up, and sprints out of there. Bolts out to the door. And Brian turns around, sees his mom running away, looks down at the table, sees that the rings are gone, and yells out, security guards, she's taking the rings. And, at this point, everyone who's just enjoying the buffet turns around. And Brian immediately says, haha, nothing to see, and then sprints off running after his mom. The 2 security guards go running after them as well. So Brian's mom goes outside, takes a left, is running down the road. And Brian and the security guards, while Brian's mom isn't immobile or anything, but she can still, she's slower than Brian and the 2 security guards. So they're starting to gain on her, and Brian's like, Mom, why can't you let me have this day? And she's like, I'm doing this for you, sweetie. And she goes up and she finds a drain. And she literally is holding the 2 rings above the drain. And Brian's like, Mom, no. And she's like, nobody take 1 step closer or these rings drop down. At this point, right, is Brian and one of the security guards. The other security guard, seeing what happened, turned around and ran around the block. So basically, they were now in a neighborhood that was a couple minutes out. And, the security guard ran around the back. So, in neighborhoods, they're kind of squares or whatever. And you can go down blocks. So what the security guard was doing was he was trying to go around the block to kind of blindside her and get her up from behind. And the Karen's like, Brian, you should have listened to me. Kate is no good for you. In fact, she's poison for you. And sure enough, right, the security guard is starting to walk up behind Brian's mom. Brian sees this and is like, oh, okay, I gotta keep her attention. So he's like, Mom, at least reason with me. Why is it so important that you ruin my wedding? And she's like, I had a gut feeling about Kate this entire time, and I went to my tarot card reader and my, psychic, and they both said that something disturbing was on my mind, which means that they agree with me that Kate is bad news. She has bad karma written all over her. And Brian's like, Mom, I just don't understand. How did you come to that conclusion? Did you just feel it? And Brian's trying to distract her and drag this out so the security guard, the second one who is coming up from behind her, can, successfully grab the rings without them falling down the drain, because at this point, if he makes one move towards his mom is going to drop these rings down the drain. And at this point, his mom is so infatuated with the fact that her son is actually speaking to her, because she has not been getting speaking privileges for a little bit for being insane, that she's like, oh yes, let me plead my case to you. And as she's about to plead her case, she feels her hand be grabbed by another hand. The security guard rips the 2 rings out of them, puts it in his pocket, and is like, ma'am, you're not allowed back. And she's like, what? Me? Why am I not allowed back? No, this is my own son's wedding. And Brian's like, Mom, I literally told you if you did one more thing, I gave you fair warning. I said if you did one more insane thing that you were going to be banned. And she's like, but it wasn't insane. It was for your good. He says, no, stop. I literally, no. I'm dragging the line here. You're not going to manipulate me anymore. After saying that, you took the rings and threatened to throw them down. These are expensive, Mom. These aren't free. These are expensive, and this is just to prove a point that your stupid little tarot card reader said this, or that you had the vibes in the air. No, Mom, that's all nonsense. That's all BS. That's all in your head. You just don't like her. You can't get over the fact that you're wrong. His mom's just standing there. He's like, I'm going back. I have 15 minutes. I still need to get ready. I'm going back. He looks at the 2 officers, and he says, this woman's not allowed inside the premises. And she's like, no. Anyways, eventually, Brian goes back inside, gets his stuff all ready, and it's time for the wedding. So it's this typical ceremony. He walks down, stands at the very end, or at the very front, I should say. And that's when Kate is walked down by her father. Kate stands up there. They're looking at all the people in the pews. And Kate kind of like turns over and kind of whispers to him, like, where's your mom? And Brian's like, I had to go deal with her. And Kate's like, I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know what happened. Which is a smart answer, because she would probably go crazy, as any rational person would when they heard what was about to happen, or what happened. Real quick, the Karen's not done. I just want to let you know. The Karen is coming back. But sure enough, they say their vows to each other, put the rings on the fingers, they have a big make-out session. They go to 10th base, how weddings normally go. And sure enough, everyone's clapping. It's great. They're walking out. Life is good. So the final thing is the kind of like the dinner that is after the wedding, the final part of the wedding. So anyways, it's time for the dinner. And remember, Brian's mom is still banned from the dinner because, she's still just banned from anything wedding related. Brian was honestly at this point so angry with her that he wasn't sure when he was going to speak to her again. However, his heart started to melt a little bit. He's like, you know what, maybe I'll talk to her after the wedding. And, I just don't want, my family members to not get along. Like, it's just so unfortunate that my mom and my wife now at this point, can't get along. So they're sitting at the dinner. And a lot of times at, the dinner after the wedding, people will make, a toast. So they'll go up there, they'll have their glass, they'll ding it, and then they'll basically just talk about, the bride, the groom, the wedding, how lovely the day is, the atmosphere in the air, stuff like that. And unfortunately, the security guards, there was only 2 of them, and they weren't necessarily guarding the entrances at all time. So guess who snuck back in? Yes, the Karen. The Karen snuck her little butt back in and found a way to kind of hide while the reception dinner was going on. And sure enough, people are going up there. They're saying, oh, so excited to see you, or not so excited to see you, but I'm so this was such a beautiful day, you guys. Oh my God, my best friend Kate is getting married. All that kind of typical stuff. They're saying toast. They're saying, oh, it's so wonderful to see you guys up here and you're married and my heart is melting. And that's when they put down, the last person to make a toast steps down. And you know who steps up? Brian's mom. And she takes a glass and so normally what happens, right? Normally what happens is you take a fork or a utensil and you gently ding the glass. That's to get people's attention. Brian's mom takes an empty glass and chucks it on the ground and basically gets people's attentions by the sound of glass shattering. And she is you, and points to Brian, and Kate is like, you two ruined my special day. Everyone's like, bro, what, your special day? Huh? What do you mean your special day? And she's like, I've been trying to warn you, Brian, that this Kate girl is the worst. I've been trying to say this for the longest time, but you refuse to listen to my logic. She's like, I tried to stop the wedding last night by protesting it, yet none of you fools, points to everyone in the audience, none of you fools decided to do what was right. I tried to steal the rings away to make sure that the wedding could not go through, but these moron security guards stopped me. At this point, Kate turns over to Brian. She's like, Brian, she stole the rings? He's like, yeah, I didn't want to tell you at the time. Seemed like I didn't want to ruin your day. I was going to tell you eventually. She's like, oh my God, your mom's crazy. And he's like, tell me. Yeah, tell me something I don't know, Kate. And sure enough, she goes and be like, and this is where I put my foot down. And she turns to the the person who made the wedding official, because he was able to stay and eat dinner with them. She turns to the person the priest or whatever and says, undo the wedding. By the power of God, I commence you to undo the wedding. And he's like, that's not how it works, ma'am. She's like, undo it. Divorce them. Divorce them now. Undo your spell of wedding. At this point, Brian's like, oh my God, I have to go up there. So Brian walks up and is like, Mom, I asked you to leave. And she's like, Brian, you don't know what's good for you, but as your mother, I know what's good for you. Always. I always know what's good for you. Yeah, Brian, no. Stop the wedding, cancel it. I'm going to get my Facebook group to come after your Facebook, Kate. They're coming for you. And that's when Brian's like, security guards come over. And as they're kind of pushing, Brian's mom out of the building, she's like, Brian, you won't get away with this. And turns to Kate and be like, this is not the last of me. I will get you two to divorce if it's the last thing I do. As she's being dragged out the door, boom, door slams. Once again, there's just a silence. And, Brian goes up there and kind of is like, hey guys, just want to say thank you all so much for coming to my wedding. I love each and every single one of you, even if some of you are kind of in the doghouse right now, insinuating his mother. And he's like, I just want to say apologies for any distractions that might have happened last night or recently. By recently, I mean a couple seconds ago. I just want to let you know that, don't let that destroy the mood or the atmosphere. Some people just don't get it, and that's okay. I would like you all, to have a great rest of your night. Remember, dancing will be in an hour. I want to see all of you guys on the dance floor. And just thank you guys so much for coming. And everyone claps him out, and he walks back to the table, and he sits down next to Kate. And Kate's like, this was a pretty great wedding. And, even with all the stuff that happened, Brian looks at her, and this kind of looks like directly into the eyes of his wife, the person that he is planning to spend the rest of his life with. It's just like, this is the greatest wedding.
Click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it. Do it. Today we got a story of this Karen who ruins this kid's birthday party. It's just overall an absolute menace to society, as Karens are. Leave a like in the video, subscribe if you like stories, and let's call today's subscriber Jamie. So this all happened when Jamie was asked by his little brother to go to a birthday party that Jamie's little brother was invited to. And Jamie was kind of at an age where, his friends didn't really throw birthday parties anymore. And at the end of the day, it was an opportunity to go get some free cake, to go, yes, he was kind of just supervising his little brother, but I don't know, man, it was going to be kind of fun, I guess. And Jamie did owe his mom a favor. So he was like, yeah, man, of course I'll go with you. So anyways, right, Jamie and Jamie's little brother, drive over, because at this point, Jamie can drive. Jamie's 19 at this point, but his little brother's in second grade. So anyways, right, Jamie drives his little brother over, and, he goes over to the party, says hello to the parents of Jamie's little brother's friend. We're just going to call Ben, right? So Jamie's little brother has a friend who we're going to call Ben, and it's his birthday, and he's throwing a birthday party. So anyways, right, Jamie goes over to Ben's parents and says, hey, thank you so much for inviting my little brother and I, tell Ben congrats, tell Ben happy birthday. And then Jamie is holding the present that, Jamie's little brother and him picked out for Ben. He's like, hey, where should I put this? And Ben's parents were like, oh, thank you so much for coming. Ben is so excited that your little brother was able to make it. And I'm sure, we'll get to know you. You seem pretty cool or whatever. Yeah, you can just hand us the present. So anyways, right, Jamie hands over the present, and, it's a pretty fun experience. I mean, not as much for Jamie, but Jamie's little brother and Ben and all the other kids at the birthday party are having a fantastic time. And who was not having a fantastic time? Karen. So there was a mom of a kid who was also invited to the birthday party. We don't even have to give her a name, because her name is Karen because she was a Karen. If you don't know, Karen is the name for moms with side part haircuts that are also going to be calling the manager on you. Oh, can I speak to the manager? Yeah, that's a Karen, bro. And Jamie immediately knew that this mom was a Karen, because there were people that were catering this birthday party. Basically, right, Ben's parents had rented out, or not rented out, but had people went to a catering service, paid the money to come, and they were making the food, but they were also kind of prepping the food, handing it out, making sure things were running smoothly. And so anyways, right, Jamie was kind of over getting some food or whatever, maybe some, I don't know, pizza or something, right, some kind of food. And he hears the Karen say, ahem, waiter, ahem. Look, these are not waiters, these are just staff, but whatever, right? So the guy walks over who's catering the thing, and he's like, yes, ma'am. And she's like, this food, I need to talk to the chef. And the dude's like, this stuff was pre-made, we make it back at the place, the chef isn't here who made this, but I guess I could tell him something. And the Karen's like, no, you are being paid to do what I say. I need to speak to the chef. And the guy's like, ma'am, ma'am, please. No, but he's like, ma'am, I don't know what to say. Like, the chef isn't here, but I can definitely, like, I don't know. I can bring back a good word. And she's like, you will not be bringing back any good words from me, young man. And he's like, okay, I can also bring back whatever you want me to tell him. And so Karen's like, yep, this food, it's a little disappointing. You know, I'm just going to say it. I'm going to say what everyone else is thinking. This food is a little disappointing. And Jamie's thinking to himself, dude, what are you talking about? This is frickin' pizza, bro. What did you expect? Like, I don't know, a filet mignon, like 5-star restaurant, beef Wellington type stuff. Dude, it's pizza, and like, to be honest, the pizza was apparently pretty good. So Karen was just mad that this wasn't like gold-plated, like, toilet paper. What am I saying? The Karen was just mad that this wasn't some fancy like food or whatever with gold leaf pizza and fig or something crazy like that goes for $2,000. And she was like, yeah, I need the chef to know this. And she's like, she turns to the waiter and she's like, I'm really disappointed that I wasn't able to talk to the chef. And do you guys have, a website? And the guy's like, yes, we do. And she's like, what is your website? And, he says, all right, this is the name of our business and this is our website. And she's like, oh, you guys are rated on Yelp? You should know that I'm a top Yelp reviewer. And because I'm so disappointed that I wasn't able to talk to your chef, I'm sorry, but I am going to give you a 1-star. And then she looks at the name tag of the guy. And she's like, I'm writing you up specifically. And the guy's like, okay. This is my part-time job I do over the summer. All right, ma'am, go ahead. So at this point, right, the Karen walks away all upset or whatever, and Jamie's just standing there like, dude, you cannot be serious. This woman's insane. You might be thinking, well, Connor, this must be the peak of the story. No, I'm not even kidding you. This was the tamest part of the story. Like, this is legitimately this action right here was Karen being the sanest she's ever been in this story. Just you freaking wait, dude. A real quick comment, Karen, down below if you want to heart on your comment. That'll be the secret word of the day. Also, let me know if you ever binge watching my videos. If you guys watch a bunch of my videos in one sitting, it like super boosts the channel, and I just want to say thank you if you do, and let me know. I'll try and say thank you back. There are playlists in the description that'll make that easier. But anyways, let's get to the good stuff. So fast forward to the part of the birthday party where Ben is sitting around opening up any presents that were given to him. So right, when Jamie handed the present over to Ben's mom, Ben's mom just put the present on a big table, and there was a big stack of presents on the table. So at one point, right, Ben's mom was like, all right, guys, it's time to open presents, and everyone, walks over, whatever. All the parents walk over too because they want to see the reactions. You know how it goes. And anyways, right, the presents were just on the table in a random order. There was no specific order to the order that, Ben was going to be opening these presents. You might be wondering why I'm specifying this. Oh, you shall see in a second. So anyways, right, Ben picks up one of the presents randomly and sits down. And the Karen goes, ahem. And Ben kind of looks up a little confused. And the Karen's like, why did you choose that present? And Ben's like, oh, it was just the first one I saw. And she's like, why do you not choose my son's present? And the whole room goes silent. And Ben is just like, oh, I just chose a random one. I can totally choose your son's first. I don't really care. And she's like, no, it's fine. It's just the whole principle that matter. Just, I don't know. I just my son and I we spent a long time trying to figure out what present would be best for you. And if I'm being honest, if I'm just being straight up here, if I'm being really honest, I think we put in more time than anyone else. I think we might have put in at least twice as much time as the next person who put in the most time. And just the fact that, we're being shunned and ridiculed by not being the first present to be opened, it's just a little disappointing to me, really. It's just giving off ungrateful vibes. And Jamie his jaw is on the ground. His jaw has detached from his skull and is on the ground. He's like, ma'am, what? He's just thinking to himself, you know what? I love my mom, but I appreciate her more than ever. Especially, I appreciate the fact that she is not this woman. Oh my God. And Ben is just like, what? And Ben's mom turns to Ben and says, Ben, you don't have to listen to her. Just open that present. And Ben's like, okay. So Ben opens up the present that he was originally had in his hand, and Ben goes through and starts opening up all the presents, eventually does get to the Karen son's present, and the Karen son is actually very nice, and it's unfortunate that his mom is like that. But anyways, right, eventually Ben opens up the Karen present, and the Karen kind of gives out a very loud sigh when he says thank you, and he kind of just like, oh, okay. So after the presents are being opened, they kind of have they sit down to cut the cake, and eventually, right, so they're all sitting down and the caterers are getting the cake prepared. So while they're sitting down, all the parents are sitting around or standing around. All the kids are sitting. The parents are kind of standing behind them. And, Jamie's sitting there and he hears the Karen trying to talk to the other parents. And the Karen is like, wow, I hate to say it. I hate to be the one who's saying exactly what everyone is thinking, but sometimes I'm just too truthful for everyone. I'm sorry, but Ben has been acting really ungrateful. And the other moms are like, bruh, what are you even talking about? What? And she's like, you know what? And the Karen's like, I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. I just have, the balls, the woman balls, I guess. I just have the balls to say what everyone is thinking. And the truth is, if the truth has to be told, the truth has to be told, ma'am. I think Ben he's just being very spoiled right now. He's just very ungrateful. And all the other parents are like, ma'am, what are you talking about? He literally has been nothing but polite. He's acted really nicely to every single present, even if he didn't like the present. We're assuming we couldn't even tell because he was acting great. His parents set up a wonderful party. What's going on? And things really started to get bad when Ben's mom was overhearing the Karen saying, I just have to say it, but Ben's acting, he's just giving me ungrateful vibes today. At this point, right, Ben's mom was already pretty mad that the Karen was making a humongous deal out of nothing when Ben didn't randomly choose her present first. So Ben's mom walks over and she's like, hey, what is your problem with my son? So while Ben's mom is confronting the Karen, the caterers bring out the cake. And they're like, happy birthday to you. And while this is happening, right, Karen and Ben's mom start arguing with each other. And the thing is, it's kind of awkward because, Jamie can definitely hear them arguing. And everyone else at the party can hear them arguing. But all the parents and the rest of the kids are really just trying to, make this awkward situation less awkward. So all they do is they just kind of sing along. They just kind of sing louder. They're like, happy birthday, while the Karen and, the mom are arguing back and forth. And so the caterers, they put the cake down and then they light the candles, and it's 12 candles because Ben is turning 12 or however old he is. I don't know. He's a little kid. I don't know how old he is, man. But by the time they're done singing happy birthday to Ben, Jamie hears that the Karen and Ben's mom, their arguing is getting louder and louder. And by the end of the song, the Karen is screaming, your son is so ungrateful. He was discriminating against me and my son because because he was. He didn't pick our present first. We put all this time into it. That is giving me ungrateful energy. The aura of spoiled and entitledness is strong on your son. And Ben's mom is like, how dare you say that about my son? We've been nothing but great to you, and you've been nothing but complaining the whole time. Don't think that I didn't know about when you were threatening to write up our caterer for not bringing over the chef manager or whatever. I know about that too. You've been nothing but terrible since here. And the Karen is like, you know what? Ben is ungrateful because you're a terrible mom. And with this, the Karen runs over. Dude, this is the goofiest thing. This is one of the goofiest stories I've ever received, bro. I can hardly keep a straight face. By the way, submit these stories to my Instagram. I'm also thinking of starting up an email address for you guys to send these stories to, as a lot of you guys don't have Instagram to send these to. But anyways, right, the Karen is like, you know what? I hate you. It's like the episode from The Office, but she's like, you know what? Your son is spoiled, so are you, and he doesn't deserve this. And the Karen runs over to the cake and blows out all the candles. And Ben's mom is like, why did you do that? And she's like, to teach him a lesson to be less spoiled and entitled. And Jamie and his little brother are just sitting there, just totally aghast, what? What is our life? What? What is going on before me? This is literally the craziest thing I've ever seen.
are you serious, right? And the Karen and Ben's mom get like, Ben's mom is like, are you serious? Like, you're such a baby. You blew out my son's candles because you're calling him spoiled and entitled, when the truth is, you're just being a massive Karen. And she's like, I'm being a what? I'm not being a Karen. Yeah, okay, she was. But like, she's like, I'm not being a Karen. Your son's entitled and spoiled, and he doesn't even, the whole time, right? Ben is just sitting there, just like kind of on the verge of tears, bro. I legit feel bad for Ben. But she's like, your son is so spoiled, it doesn't deserve this cake. And then the Karen goes over to the table and just side swipes the cake off of the table. Just takes her big meaty palm, lands it on the table, and then just like slides everything off the table, including the cake. The cake goes flying onto the ground, splatters everywhere. There was like some dishes and utensils on there too. Those fly everywhere. There was like a bowl on the table that falls on the ground, hits the side of something and breaks. It's a huge disaster. It's a huge scene. And remember, this is all over the Karen literally just getting mad because, Ben didn't randomly pick her son's present first. Are you serious, bro? So at this point, right, Ben's mom kind of loses her composure and she's like, do you want to fight? Do you want to fight this out? And the Karen's like, bring it on. So all of a sudden, right, all these parents rush over and they like hold back Ben's, dude, this is the funniest scene ever. They hold back Ben's mom and then they hold back the Karen. The Karen's like, you're so lucky that they're holding me back. You don't know like 10% of my power. You don't know 5% of my power, and you simply couldn't take 1% of my power. You're a lucky woman that they're holding me back. And Ben's mom was like, you're lucky that they're holding me back. To be fair, as crazy as the Karen was getting, Ben's mom should not have tried to fight her, like just in general. A pretty bad look. But anyways, right, the Karen whips out her phone and calls up her husband. And she's like, you need to get over here this instant. So sure enough, right, give it some time. The whole birthday party is completely ruined at this point, as Ben's mom and the Karen are like being held back consistently from squaring off. So this guy rolls up and he kind of like comes up and he like walks in with these like aviator sunglasses and these cargo shorts and like flip-flops exposing his crusty toes, bro. And he's walking up, he's like, hey, who's like coming for my wife? I'm coming in to defend her because I'm a big strong man or whatever, right? And Karen's like, this woman and her spoiled son, they're so spoiled. And so Karen's husband comes up and says, hey, like goes up, literally walks up to Ben and says, hey, like, you got to understand a thing or two about respect. When I was your age, my grandfather and my father would teach me respect. And this generation knows nothing about respect. Is that right, honey? And the Karen's like, yeah, he's so spoiled. And the husband's like, yes. So what did he exactly do again, honey? And the Karen's like, you won't even believe this. You know that present that our son and I spent so long, painstaking hours picking out, and all the money we spent on it. Oh my God, so much time. You see this kid over here? He didn't pick us first. And the husband's like, yeah, wait, what? And the Karen's like, yeah, can you believe it? And the husband's like, wait, is that why he was being quote unquote disrespectful? The Karen's like, yes. Are you in shock because of how terrible it is? The husband's like, yo, wait, what? You got in a fight and destroyed his cake? Because he looks over at the destroyed cake and kind of just assumed it was her because maybe she'd had a few episodes before because you didn't pick your present for. Was it like intentional or was it random? And she's like, I don't know. He was being disrespectful. He was just being disrespectful. The husband's like, honey? And the Karen's like, yes. I think we should go home. She's like, no, we will not lose this battle. We're definitely getting divorced if you don't back me up here. And he's like, honey, you say that every single time. She's like, brr. So Jamie and his little brother have been sitting just watching the whole thing go down. And sure enough, right, the husband of the Karen walks up to Ben's mom and is like, look, I'm so sorry. When she called me on the phone, she said that like your son was being incredibly disrespectful and that you were like, I don't know, taunting her and insulting her and all of this. I'm just like, I want to stand up for my wife.
but she is obviously in the wrong here if what she is telling me is the truth, which I don't know why she would lie to make her situation seem worse than it is. Like, I don't know why she'd try and make herself seem like, I don't know, even more terrible than she needs to be. So I definitely believe like that, like my wife's in the wrong here. And he's trying to keep it down because look, he has to go back with this woman and live with her. So he's not trying to have like a terrible life. You know, he's not trying to have a real tough night, if you know what I mean. So he's trying to keep his voice down. He's like, hey, I'm so sorry if I need to like pay for some of the damages. Like, I do pretty well at my job. Whatever it needs to be is what it needs to be. And Ben's mom, who's completely calmed down and probably a little bit embarrassed that she tried to fight this woman in the first place, is like, you know what? Like, I appreciate you for being so like grown up and respectful here. I'm sorry that I even like lost my temper a little bit. I think it would just be best if you took, you know, Karen and her son away and we're just going to try and finish off this birthday party. And the dad or the Karen's husband's like, yes, I totally understand. So Karen's husband walks up to the Karen and says, oh, I totally told her off. Like, we totally won. And Karen's like, yeah, turns to Ben's mom. Yeah, take that. Oh, and you know, Ben's mom is like, aha, yeah, your husband totally owned me, because Karen didn't hear him say, I'm sorry, my wife's insane. So anyways, right, Karen's husband and her son, they walk away, and all that is left is the rest of the people at the birthday party, and they have a little bit of a normal birthday party, but I don't know how normal your birthday party can be after that, I'm just saying. So when Jamie and Jamie's little brother are, you know, they're driving back, and Jamie's little brother's in the back seat, and Jamie's little brother said, what happened today? Jamie takes a long pause and says, you know what? I don't know what happened today. Just, you know, be grateful for our mom. Be grateful that our mom is nothing like that woman. Because, you know, that's the actual mom of one of your classmates, little brother, little bro. Like, that's an actual mom. Like, if we were unlucky in the genetic lottery, that could have been our mom, man. And, you know, Jamie's little brother is like, yeah, our mom is cool. And Jamie's like, even if she wasn't cool, compared to, like, that Karen, bro, she's the coolest person ever.
Click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it. Do it. Today we got a story of probably the most psychopathic Karen of all time. I've told a few other Karen stories, but honestly this one is most definitely the craziest one. So subscribe if you like stories, and let's call today's subscriber who sent in this story, let's call her Hunter. So Hunter was 19 years old and wanted to get a part-time job while she was in college. And near her college was a local kind of bar and restaurant. So on the weekends, Friday and Saturday, she would be a waitress and make some extra money, make some money through the tips. You know, college is expensive, and even not even counting like how much the college costs, but also all the food you got to get. Anyways, right, so this all happened on one night while Hunter was, you know, doing her shift on one Friday night. She honestly felt like this was like, she didn't feel a disturbance in the force or anything, so she had no idea what was about to come after her. Until this happened. The Karen walks in. And the thing is, right, we're just going to call her Karen. I mean, she was really fitting the typical Karen thing. She had the side like haircut, the side part haircut or whatever, right? She had the big old black glasses. She was fitting the description. But anyway, she comes in and she goes to the front desk, and this is a pretty busy restaurant. This is a pretty popular place in town. So most people who come here really got to get reservations. So sure enough, Hunter's like, hey ma'am, how's your night tonight? And the Karen is like, good. And Hunter's like, all right, so what's your name for the reservations? And the Karen's like, I don't have any reservations. And Hunter's like, all right, well, then the wait's probably going to be 20 minutes. And the Karen says, do you know who my husband is? And already, like, Hunter's like, oh, boy, it's one of these. And Hunter's like, no, the wait's going to be 20 minutes. And the Karen's like, you don't even know who my husband is. And, you know, sure enough, Hunter's like, yeah, I don't know who your husband is. I really don't think that's going to change anything. The Karen's like, well, wait until you hear this. And sure enough, right, you know, the Karen says her husband's first and last name and then has this smug look. And maybe he was like a secret trillionaire or something, but at the end of the day, if his name isn't Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, Hunter wasn't going to know who this guy was. So Hunter's like, hey, like, okay, the wait's going to be 20 minutes. And the Karen's like, fine.
whatever. And she goes to sit down. And Hunter's like, in her head, she's like, all right, so this woman's going to be fun tonight. And sure enough, the entire time, like the entire 25 minutes that Karen is waiting there, she's on her phone playing her Candy Crush and then looking up and glaring at Hunter. The Karen was basically like pinning the entire thing on Hunter for some reason, being like, oh, this girl who's just doing what her job description says is the reason why I'm not eating right now, which just wasn't the case. You should have made a reservation, bro. It sucks to suck. I don't know what else to say. So eventually Hunter notices that a table is opened up. So she goes over to the Karen, is being super nice, is like, ma'am, we have a table for you. And the Karen is like, finally, you guys took forever. Which, look, at the end of the day, they can't really control how long it takes for people to eat their food, bro. Like, I don't know about you, but I definitely can't control with my mind powers making people eat faster or whatever. So the Hunter's just like, all right, man. And Hunter's really trying to get, like, someone else to wait this girl, but, or this woman, not girl, she's, like, pretty old. But unfortunately, right, you know, Hunter sits her down at a table and is informed that she has to be the waiter for this woman. So she's like, all right, whatever. And she's like, all right, here's the menu. Like, I'll come back in a second. And the Karen's like, no, I know exactly what I want. I come here all the time, which is why I should have gotten free reservations, which Hunter was just so startled by this, or just like so, I don't know, dumbfounded, because bro, reservations are free. What do you mean free reservations? You literally anyone can call them up. Huh? But whatever, right? That's in the past. Hunter's just like, ma'am, all right, what do you want then? And the Karen literally orders like 40% of the menu. She has like 6 full course meals, half the appetizers, and Hunter's like, oh, are we expecting a party? And the Karen's like, are you calling me fat? And the waiter's like, oh no. Hunter's like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No. Oh, ma'am. No, I didn't say anything. Oh, ma'am, I'm sorry. But Hunter was like, no, I didn't. And the Karen's like, you better watch yourself. I mean, my husband will sue you and throw his dogs against you or something like that. And sure enough, right, Hunter's like, all right, this woman is scaring me a little bit. And Hunter brings in the order, and it's like, all right, ma'am, well, I'll be back with the food. And the Karen, before Hunter's able to leave, is like, you better know that I'm expecting this food to come out extra early because of all the time you forced me to wait. I know that you forced me to wait extra long on purpose. Don't think I'm stupid. And Hunter responds, ma'am, like, I have no control over the wait time. And, you know, Karen responds, yeah, you must think I'm stupid then. And Hunter's like, ma'am, I literally have... And she's like, whatever, just go get the food. So Hunter, not liking this woman, but also very scared of her, goes off and puts in the order. Real quick, comment Karen down below if you want to heart in your comment. That is the secret word of the day. I'll be hearting as many as I can to say thank you guys for watching, as I really do appreciate you guys. And also, if you really want to help out the channel, consider binge watching a ton of videos. And if you're watching like a ton of videos in one sitting, please let me know in the comment section, like these comments up here. And if you're on like video number 6 of your binge watching session, let me know. I'll try and heart these comments and reply to them and say thank you, because watching like a ton of videos, maybe through my playlist or just watching a ton of them, is boosting the channel so much. I appreciate you guys so much for doing that. So if you guys didn't know, when food doesn't appear instantly, it takes time to make food, but apparently the Karen was not even aware of that, because, you know, Hunter was like awaiting another table next to the Karen, and 2 minutes after, you know, the Karen put in her order for like half the freaking menu, bro, the Karen sees Hunter at another table, just assisting another family with their meal, right, getting their order, all that stuff. The Karen is like, waiter, where's my food? And Hunter's just like, ma'am, it's been 2 minutes. It's going to take a while. And she's like, what? You said it would be instant. And Hunter's like, ma'am, I never said that. What? And Karen's like, where's my food? And Hunter's just like turns to the family like, sorry, let me finish taking your order. And the Karen is like whimpering and whining and screaming the entire time while Hunter's just trying to do her job, bro. She's just trying to get, you know, the orders of the, you know, the great families bringing in like their kids, just trying to have a fun time. And the Karen is sitting in her chair flailing her arms. Where's my food? I don't know if she actually made those noises, but you get the point, right? You get the picture. So anyways, right, finally,
the check eventually does, not the check, sorry, the food does come out, and, you know, the the waiter, brings it out in multiple waves. Like, first she brings out the entrees, and then all the type of food, right? It's like 10 plates altogether, and the Karen is like, took you long enough. And honestly, the food came out in like 25 minutes, which sounds like a long time, but that was so much food to prepare. Like, the fact that the kitchen was able to whip it out that fast was pretty impressive, at least Hunter thought. So Hunter's like, all right, well, that's cool. Like, I'm finally, this woman can stop complaining. She can enjoy her food. And she notices that the Karen takes one bite from all the dishes. And Hunter seems to be having a lull in the traffic for, like, having to bring out food and orders. So she finds herself just watching the Karen take one bite of each of the food items. And then the Karen is like, waiter! Hunter comes over, is like, yes, ma'am. And the Karen's like, I need 10 boxes. And the Hunter's like, you want me to box all 10 of these? And the Karen's like, yes. So anyways, right, Hunter's a little annoyed, but boxes up all 10 of the food items she brought out, because obviously the Karen couldn't eat half of, like, the menu or whatever. But, you know, fine, whatever she wants to do. I mean, you can order all that food if you want. Sure, bring it home. Do what you want, as long as you're going to pay. I think you guys can see where this story's about to go. So sure enough, right, Hunter spends all this time boxing up all the food, brings it back to the Karen. The Karen once again makes a snarky remark of, like, took you long enough, which I don't know if the Karen thinks that, like, I don't know, Hunter and the people in the kitchen and the staff have superpowers, the ability to pause time and then, you know, cook up her food or box up her food and then unpause time, so it seems like it happens instantaneously. But sure enough, Hunter's like, all right, ma'am, thanks for dining with us. I'm just going to leave the check here. Take as much time as you want. And so Hunter leaves and gives it, like, I don't know, a couple minutes, and sees that the Karen is on her phone and the check is, you know, at the edge of the table. And if you don't know, a lot of times when you sign the check or put your credit card in or whatever, you kind of push it to the end of the table so the waiter knows that they're free to come by and pick it up when they're ready, as you've kind of filled out the required details. And sure enough, Hunter kind of just assumed this was the case, but she walked over to the check and she looked at it, and there was no credit card, there was no paper money, there was no, I don't know, Bitcoin wallet. No, I mean, you can't really give that. There was no bar of gold, right? There was no form of money, right? It was just a little piece of paper. No, it wasn't a piece of paper. I'm reading this again. It was a napkin. And on the napkin, it just said the 3 letters, IOU, which, if you don't know, that basically is like saying, I'll get you back later. I'll pay you later. And Hunter's like, haha, ma'am, this is pretty funny. And the Karen's like, what's funny? And Hunter's starting to realize, oh my God, I got to explain to this lady that she can't just say IOU, spend like $600 at a restaurant, and then give them an IOU check. Like, we're a business here. Like, they got to, like, pay their employees. This is not some mega corporation. This is a mom and pop bar and grill type thing. Like, you can't be scamming us out of this food. So Hunter politely says, ma'am, like, we do need you to actually pay for it. We don't have any type of tab service or anything where you can pay a lot of money and then pay it back later. We just don't have that. And the Karen's like, no, this should do. And once again, kind of like pats her hand on the napkin that just says IOU. And Hunter's like, ma'am, I don't know how to say this. We just don't accept this. So the Karen just looks at her and kind of makes this face and then gets up to leave. And Hunter kind of stands in front of her to kind of block her from leaving and says, ma'am, I cannot let you leave the establishment without paying up front. Like, if you need to call someone or, like, call someone to get your credit card or call someone to, like, get you money, like, that's totally fine. We can arrange that, but you can't leave the establishment without paying. Like, I mean, at that point, like, Hunter understood the business model and kind of how tight they were for cash. And she kind of explained, look, we need to go. Like, we can't, like, have like large outstanding debts where really, like, I know that the business is going kind of check to check. Like, we can't have you do that. And the Karen is like, this is an outrage. Picks up her phone, dials 911, says, police, you must come assist immediately. I feel in danger. Come now. They're like, all right, ma'am, we'll be there. Can you give us any more details? No. And she just turns off the phone.
which I'm surprised the police even came, but I think they're legally required to. So at this point, Hunter is in complete shock because she just did not expect this to escalate that crazy so quickly. She's like, ma'am, like, why on earth did you call the police? And the Karen's like, to teach you a lesson, which, little spoiler, it's about to be an Uno reverse 180 no scope 360 moment because Karen's about to be taught a lesson. But anyways, right, the police show up and, you know, people are like kind of looking over. It's causing a scene. The manager comes out and Hunter quickly explains what's happening. So it's Hunter, the manager, like another waiter, the Karen, and the two police officers that come. And the Karen decides to explain the situation. And there's been situations in older Karen stories I posted on the channel a couple days ago where the Karen calls the police and lies to them. But in this story, the Karen literally just tells the police what happened. Like, I'm legit, like, not even kidding you. The Karen just tells you, like, the story that I told you. I would have thought that she lied about something to try and get out of this, but she just kind of expected the police officers to know who her husband was and then to bow down and enforce her reign of terror, right? But no, the police officers are like, all right, ma'am, so I don't know why you called us, but it's pretty clear that you got to pay. So the Karen is like, what? No! So the Karen picks up her glass of water, splashes it in the face of the police officer, and they're like, all right now. And sure enough, the Karen is arrested on site. And Hunter's just standing there, turns to her manager and is like, am I being paid overtime for this? The manager's like, we'll discuss this in a second. Because at this point, the bar is closed. The bar closed kind of early, especially for a bar. You expect those to be open late. But for this reason, it was closing early on the day. And everyone was out. It was just the police officers and the Karen and the manager and her. She's just like, dude, what? And you might be thinking, okay, story ends there. Karen is arrested and charged for, I don't know, maybe assaulting an officer and definitely wasting their time, and she just never returns. That is where you're wrong. And I said before that this is the craziest Karen story I've ever received. And there's a reason. There's a reason why I said this is the craziest Karen story I've ever received. Because this continues, and it only gets crazier. Because flash forward a week later, actually a little more than a week later because it's a Saturday. And once again, Hunter's working the shift. And she's at the front desk, kind of like taking reservations, telling people to come in. And later in the night, she'll switch out with people and kind of take orders and bus food. But anyways, she's standing there. And at the kind of the front desk, it's like there's a window that kind of looks out. And she can see very clearly the cars, the parking lot, and people walking in. And so anyways, Hunter's standing there. She's looking out at the parking lot. And she sees a familiar face come in, or a familiar face far away. And you know who that was? It was the Karen. But there was something very distressing about the Karen. She was not just she wasn't like how she was before, right? Purse on her like left shoulder, a lot of attitude, the Karen haircut and the glasses. It was all of that minus the purse, plus a baseball bat in her left hand. Or right hand, I don't know, whatever hand she was. And so Hunter starts to get really panicky and immediately calls her manager. There's like a phone at the front desk and there's a number to go dial right to the manager. And she's like, calls him up, like, you need to come to the front desk right now. I'm so sorry, I need you out here. I'm panicking, help. And he's like, all right, calm down, calm down. The manager runs out and the manager comes to see Hunter staring out at the parking lot. And he's like, what's up? And Hunter points. And the Karen starts walking, lumbering over with her big meaty legs and her big baseball bat, huffing and puffing. The Karen approaches, and all of a sudden, Hunter and her manager look at each other like, oh my God, why does she have a baseball bat? So the Karen's walking over, lumbering over, and she gets to the door, and she just opens the door and looks at Hunter, and it has this big, evil smile and says, payback. And the Karen walks right by Hunter, walks right by the manager, and the manager's like, ma'am, like, you can't enter the facility with a baseball bat. You just can't do that. And she just keeps walking by. And he's like, ma'am, are you listening to me, ma'am? And Hunter's kind of thinking, oh my God. And sure enough, the Karen gets into the restaurant. And since there's a bar in the restaurant, you know how a lot of bars have a bunch of like drinks behind them, bottles full of liquid and stuff. Karen goes up to the bar, steps behind it, and the bartender's like, ma'am, you can't be back here. Karen picks up her baseball bat and is like, yeah, just like whips her baseball bat, smashes through an entire layer of bottles. And at this point, the entire restaurant that was kind of like bumbling with a lot of people, there was a buzz of like people talking, goes dead silent. The only thing you can hear is bits of glass falling to the ground and bottles falling and breaking and just gasps from people looking over. And the Karen is like, this is called revenge. And she takes out her baseball bat once again and waddles over to the window. Boom! Baseball bat goes through the window pane like butter through hot knife through butter. I almost said butter through hot knife. That would make no sense. Boom! Right through the glass pane. The manager quickly calls 911, says, we have an emergency. I need you to come here quickly. So the Karen continues to lumber around and starts smashing stuff and looks at Hunter and says, waiter, if you were only kinder to me the day before, none of this would have happened. And so Hunter's like, I have no idea what she's talking about. And the manager's like, this woman's insane. We need help. Sure enough, the police arrive. And the police come to the site. Basically, everyone has evacuated the restaurant at this point. And it's just this woman with a baseball bat smashing stuff. And so the police walk in. And they're just like, ma'am, you got like, they're like, ma'am, drop the baseball bat. You're coming with us. And she's like, do you know who my husband is? And they're like, no, ma'am, you need to come with us. And the Karen's like, never. So one of the police officers goes up, pulls out his taser, zap. Karen just like gets obliterated. She falls to the ground. She's like, oh, it collapses. The two police officers go up and arrest her. And yeah, sure enough, the Karen is not just arrested and has actual charges against her. So, I mean, like more than what was happening before. But the Karen is also put on a restraining order. And if she ever even appears within like a 50-foot radius of the restaurant, she would be arrested or something. And yeah,
Click on the video on
crazy.
screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it. Do it. Today we get a story of probably the most entitled Karen of all time. This one's a crazy one, so strap in. Subscribe if you like stories, and let's call today's subscriber Bradley. So Bradley just turned 18, and he decided he wanted to get a minimum wage job to just get a little bit of money while he was in school. And he decided that on the weekends, he was going to work in his local Walmart. So anyways, right, every, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night, he would go in from about like 5 in the afternoon till about 9 at night. He would work a shift at Walmart behind the register. And, he was doing it for about a couple months, and a couple months into his time at Walmart, he had one of the craziest encounters with the most entitled Karen of all time. Legitimately, this is even worse than the last Karen story I told in the channel, which was a crazy one. So you got to strap in. And so anyways, right, this all happens one night, one Friday night. It's around 7 at night. And, I don't know, Bradley, it's pretty down at the moment. No one's really in the Walmart. Bradley's kind of looking at his phone. He's a little bit bored, and he's waiting to clock out. But, he's getting that bread. You'll love to see it. And anyways, right, this woman walks in, and she has the typical Karen haircut. The problem is, right, I know a lot of people that I love with that haircut. Just some really wonderful women, right? But Bradley had a feeling, right? He's like, oh no, this is bad. Like, he already had a feeling that she might be troubled. So he was kind of watching her, kind of just like, oh no, man, like this isn't really that good. And the Karen is kind of walking around. She's putting stuff in her bag, whatever, right? She isn't stealing. She's just putting it in like her shopping bag, I should specify, right? So the Karen walks up to the register with a cart or a shopping cart or whatever, shopping bag full of random items, and she comes up and, I don't know, Bradley doesn't think anything of it. He thinks it's one of his like many routine, just like, scan the items, ask if they want to join the rewards program, say have a nice day with a forced smile, the thing he's been doing 1,000 times already. So Bradley gets ready, he starts scanning the items, and the Karen's like, oh yes, by the way, is there any chance that like I could have the nice person discount? And Bradley kind of gives a little chuckle. He's like, oh, that's funny, man. She's like, no, I'm serious on this one. I was told by someone on Facebook that if I came into Walmart and asked for the nice person discount, since I'm a nice person, I qualify, that I will get 50% off all my stuff. And Bradley's like, oh, well, ma'am, I'm so sorry to tell you. Whoever told you that was just making stuff up. And the Karen's like, no, this was my friend, Sharon, right? She would never make anything up like this. And Bradley's like, well, I guess maybe someone told her and that person was making it up. Or maybe someone who told her. Someone along the line made it up, ma'am. Like, maliciously or not, like, at the end of the day, we don't have a nice person discount. And the Karen was starting to get flustered. And she's like, young man, I know you have the nice person discount. You better give me the nice person discount or we're going to have problems. Which, first of all, that's completely ironic because the whole idea of the nice person discount is that if you're nice, you get a discount. Which, first of all, that's just not a thing ever anywhere. But also, too, you're being a massive jerk about it. Even if it was real, if you're being that much of a jerk, he's not going to give it to you, even if it was real, because you're not being nice, right? But anyways, Bradley kind of puts his foot down and is like, ma'am, that does not exist, and I guarantee you that exists literally nowhere in any other Walmarts. You could go to the Walmart in like a town in Alaska with 6 people, and it would not be a thing. It's just not. Bradley was kind of on the edge. Like, he was very, like, I don't know. He was tired. He was not really in a great mood because he was working the shift again for the bajillionth time. And now he had to deal with this Karen asking very rudely for the nice person discount. That's kind of ironic in my opinion. But anyways, you guys might be thinking, oh, well, it ends here. And she understandably says, oh, my fault. I guess I was like, had some misinformation. Let me just check up my items. But no. The Karen gets mad. And the Karen says something completely outrageous. The Karen is looking at, Bradley, and she's like, no, I know it's real. You're just discriminating against me. And Bradley's like, huh? What? How? What can I discriminate against? And the woman's like, you're discriminating against me because you're discriminating against me because, I'm half British. And Bradley was like, all right, I cannot laugh. This may be the hardest try not to laugh, you lose challenge on YouTube or just in real life at this point. Oh my God. And the Karen's like, yeah, you're discriminating against me because I am half British. You hate the Brits for some reason and it's disgusting and I will not have it. And Bradley's like, ma'am, no, I do not care if you're literally a freaking walrus that walks in here, even though you're kind of looking like one. All right, he didn't say that part, but maybe she was. I don't know. And he's like, I don't care if you're a freaking like dog walking in on its like hind legs asking for the nice person discount. You're not getting a discount that doesn't exist. Real quick comment, Karen down below, if you want to heart in your comment, is that's the secret word of the day. And also, if you binge watch my videos or want to binge watch my videos or have binge watched my videos, that is the best way to support the channel. Gives me the beautiful, juicy watch time. Let me know in the comments if you do that. I want to say thank you and maybe give you a heart, maybe reply thanks. I want to let you know I appreciate you. But anyways, right, I appreciate you guys either way. Back to the story, no stalling. And so the Karen is like, yes, I'm being discriminated against because I'm British. And Bradley at this point is trying to keep his composure. He's at his wits' ends, man. I mean, he's tired. He doesn't want to be here. The Karen was asking for the nice person discount and being a jerk while doing it. And now she's saying that she's being discriminated against because she's 50% British. Bruh. Come on, man. You can't be serious. And the Karen is like, I must see the manager immediately. I'm going to get your little butt fired for discrimination. And the guy, Bradley's like, ma'am, no. Let me just finish checking up your items. She's like, I don't want these anymore. I'm taking my business somewhere else. You just lost a customer who shops at Walmart all the time. And guess what? There's a Walmart that is a little farther away, but since they don't discriminate against the British there, I will be going there, and I will guarantee you that they will be giving me the nice person discount. Good day, sir. And she dumps the rest of her items on the floor and storms out. And Bradley is just done at this point, because now he had to deal with that nonsense, and now he also has to clean up all the items that the Karen just decided to spam all over the floor. Bradley is not happy, but Bradley is happy about one thing. because the Karen said that she is never coming back to this Walmart ever again. And those are the most beautiful words Bradley has ever heard in his life, and he is so excited. However, the Karen was giving him false hope, because let's go to part 2 of the story, day 2. Anyways, right, Bradley has completely forgotten about this Karen, and it is a Saturday, and he's working his shift again. And he's in a much better mood. I mean, he saw his friends earlier in the day. Well, oh my God, my fault for burping and destroying your viewing experience. Please forgive me. Anyways, right, he saw his friends earlier in the day. And also, he was going to see his friends tomorrow, Sunday morning. So, I don't know. Bradley was in a good mood, and he has completely forgotten about the Karen. And, it's a little busier now, but it's still not that busy at all. So, he's just kind of like looking at his phone, and he just happens to be staring just like very blankly, just like kind of spacing off, thinking about other things. And all of a sudden, he's looking at the door, and guess who walks in? Yes, the Super Karen has made her very unglorious return. And Bradley is just like, no. And the thing is, right, Bradley does not want to deal with her. So Bradley almost kind of like hides behind his cash register. He's trying to be as like discreet as possible, because he's like, maybe the Karen wants to mess with me again, or maybe she's just coming in like assuming that this isn't my shift. Either way, I'm hoping she gets whatever she wants, goes to a different register, doesn't even realize that I exist, and just goes about her day. And we all live happily ever after. And I don't have to deal with her anymore. Wow, wouldn't that be nice? So sure enough, right, Bradley is trying to be as discreet as possible. But unfortunately, right, the Karen goes completely out of his view. And for about 20 minutes or so, he doesn't see her. So Bradley kind of relaxes a little bit. He assumes that, she went and checked out somewhere else, or she just left at this point, or I don't know. He just assumes that she's not there anymore. And that's when he looks up from his phone, and he looks kind of down an aisle, because his register is kind of facing down an aisle. And at the very end of the aisle, he is making eye contact with the Karen. And when the Karen makes eye contact back with him, she looks at him in his eyes and gives off this evil smile. And it just sends shivers down Bradley's spine, dude. He is like, oh my God, this woman is evil. So the Karen, after making direct eye contact with Bradley, takes one hand and shoves it into a shelf full of items. And Bradley, he's just completely thrown off guard. He's like, ma'am, what? Huh? What is this woman doing? She's gone insane. But anyways, right, the Karen has put her arm, like, I'd say like up to the elbow in the shelf. And then she starts walking forward. And the thing is, right, she has her arms stiff, and it's in the shelf. So everything in the shelf starts flying out into the floor. Bags of stuff start going everywhere. And then she pushes and makes a big swinging motion with her arm, and stuff starts flying everywhere. And she starts laughing. She's freaking cackling, bro. This Karen has gone insane, and she's evil. And she starts like kicking stuff. And then she grabs she goes into the freezer, gets a thing of ice cream, spits in it, looks at Bradley, and is like, I don't know, man. Some imagine evil Karen laugh. Probably sounded a less weird than that, but still very weird. And she starts destroying the entire place. And Bradley knows he needs to clean it. And Bradley is 99.998% sure that he thinks that he is 99% sure that the Karen knows that he needs to clean it up too. So she's doing it on purpose. At this point, Bradley, he was in a good mood, man. He's going to see his friends tomorrow. He just saw friends this morning. He's getting that bread. He was in a good mood, right? And his mood takes a complete 180, and he yells at the Karen. He's like, hey, stop that. And apparently, right, the Karen who's laughing at little troll kind of noises. She kind of gets snaps out of that and looks at him for I would say 5 seconds with a look of pure shock on her face. And then the Karen looks at him and yells back, "I'm gonna call 911 for disrespect. No young man will ever raise their voice to me." And Bradley is just looking at her like, no balls, no shot that she actually calls 911. No way. And so he's looking at the Karen. They're having some kind of like big ol' standoff, right? And the Karen whips out her phone and starts going beep, 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 beep. I mean, I guess she just goes beep, 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 or beep, 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 because 911 goes, he says, "Yes, I'm being attacked at the Walmart at 34th Avenue. Subscribe to Connor Pugs Street. Please come." And Bradley can kind of hear what she's saying. And Bradley's like, "This woman just called the police." "What? I just stood here, man. I just stood here." And the Karen puts down the phone and she's like, "You're gonna get fired for this." And then she does another little kind of like troll like scream laugh type thing. Dude, I don't even know what that means, but it's something. It's something. And she's like, starts going around. She starts doing a little dance, like a little jig. She's like, "You're going to get fired." So at this point, like, Bradley is just so bewildered by what is happening. And the Karen is just making little faces at him. And eventually, like, he sees sirens and flashing lights and the police walk into the building. And, you know, the Karen walks to the end, kind of like waddles to the end of the aisle. And is like, "So, officer, sir, I called. And they're like, "Ma'am, like, what's the issue?" And she's like, "That boy over there, arrest him immediately." And the officer's like, "Ma'am, let's just hear what happened. Let's just hear." And she's like, because Bradley walks over and is like, I don't know. I should be paid extra for this. I should be paid $100,000 a year for this, man. Not minimum wage. But anyways, right. He walks over, the Karen waddles over, and the police officers are like, "All right, ma'am, what happened here?" And, the Karen is like, "You see all that stuff all over the ground? That was because he pushed me into it and he was brutally attacking me. And because he hates me because I'm British." She had to bring in the British part, bro, which is so ridiculous. I swear to God. But anyways, right, she basically lies that Bradley attacked her and kind of threw her into the shelves or whatever. And Bradley is like, "What? Like, no, I didn't do any of that." She literally started like ripping all that stuff off the shelves. I yelled at her. She said that she was going to call the police on me for disrespecting her. And then she calls you guys. And the Karen looks at the police officers and it's just like, what story makes more sense? The one where he pushed me into the shelves and that's why all this stuff is on the ground? Or the story where I decided randomly to push all this stuff on the ground and then when he yells at me, I say I'm going to call 911 because he disrespected me? Which story makes more sense, officers? And the officer looks at Bradley and says, "Hey, can you get your manager or your supervisor?" And Bradley's like, "Yeah, sure." And Bradley's just so mad at this point. He's like, "If this woman gets me fired, bro, I swear to God, like, I don't know what I'll do." Bradley goes to the supervisor, like, "We have an issue." And the supervisor's like, "All right, whatever." Supervisor comes out. Police officers explain that, they're getting two conflicting stories, and they explain the two conflicting stories. And once the manager hears the Karen story, he like sharply turns to Bradley and is like, "Bradley, if this is true, you're being fired immediately." Bradley's like, "I swear it's not true. Like, it's simply not true," right? There's like not a single shred that is true. And the manager's like, "All right, well, I heard both stories and yours just doesn't seem as believable as hers. Like, they are both ridiculous and it's just crazy this entire thing happened, but yours seems more ridiculous." And Bradley's like, "Okay, well, this seems to be a he said, she said. Is there any way that we can and he kind of like turns to the manager and says, "Hey, this place is monitored, right?" And the manager's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "So have the cameras been rolling?" Manager's like, "Yeah." And the Karen's like, "No, we don't have time. He's a hooligan and must be arrested immediately. We do not have time to look at the cameras, officer. This is a ploy. This is a plot. How do you are so foolish. You gentlemen are foolish. I hate to say, this is a plot of his to escape. Yes, I can see it so clearly. He wants you guys to go over to the camera room while he dashes out of here unscathed." And the officers are like, ma'am, trust me, like, we'll make sure he doesn't escape. But we should review the camera footage as, you know, if you do actually want to press charges, it will be a great resource. And the Karen's like, no, he's going to escape. Trust me. And the officer's like, nah, we're going to look at the tapes. Trust me. He's not going anywhere. And the Karen is like, you know what? Well, I actually have a meeting to go to. And the officer's like, ma'am, trust me, this will take like a couple minutes. She's like, no, I'm really late. And the officers are like, ma'am, I'm so sorry. You're going to have to tell whoever you're having a meeting with that you're just going to be a couple minutes late. And the Karen's like, and they're like, all right. And they kind of like move her along, and they all move into the room where the cameras are. So the manager goes up to the security guard, or the security guard isn't there. So the manager has to go find the security guard. Security guard opens up the room where all the cameras are. And it's like, all right, like, what do you want to like look at? And the security guard or the manager's like, well, when did you guys get the report? And the police check the records. We got the call 20 minutes ago. So sure enough, right, they go into the cameras and they check the film like 22 minutes ago. And they start playing. And at this point, right, Bradley's in a good mood again because he's really mad that he's been dragged into all of this absurd nonsense by the craziest Karen of all time. Fair enough, right? But now, you know, he's about to see this Karen get absolutely wrecked. Get completely owned. Why would he not be in a good mood now? Like, he's about to see his biggest enemy of all time lose. It lose in a major fashion. And, you know, he's just sitting there. He's basically taking a victory lap. And the Karen, he looks over, she's kind of sweating. She's like, I really have something to go to, guys. Like, I don't know if I can be here. And they're like, ma'am, we're almost there. Trust us. We'll be as quick as possible. So anyways, right, they're like, oh yeah, by the way, can we get your names? And, you know, the Karen gives her full name and Bradley gives his full name. And yeah, anyways, they keep looking at the footage and they're just kind of like starting to fill out a report, whatever. And they get to the moment and sure enough, the Karen is very clearly on camera destroying all the stuff on the shelves. And then they see Bradley get kind of like motion as he's yelling. And the Karen yells back, calls 911, and then does a little waddle dance in like a victory celebration. It is the most embarrassing thing ever to be caught on camera. And the officers are like, wow, well, this was not the turn of events that we expected. And the manager looks at Bradley and is like, sorry for doubting you. And he's like, you know, your job's safe, just to let you know. And the officers are like, all right, well, it's very clear what happened here. Well, the manager can choose to press charges for, you know, the damage that you did here. And we are definitely going to do something about misuse of police resources and, you know, filing a false 911 call. And Karen's like, he altered it. He altered the tapes. Yes, that is what happened. He was very quickly, while we were so distracted, while you foolish cops were distracted, I don't know, eating donuts or something, he went into the room and he changed the cameras with an altered app version. And they're like, ma'am, how on earth would that happen? She's like, you don't understand technology. They have wizard apps that can turn anything into anything. They're like, ma'am, I'm sorry, like, no, like, we're expect to be in court in a couple days because or expect to receive a fine. I don't know exactly how that works, but she eventually, right, what happened was the Karen was kind of like fined for or got some sort of small punishment for calling a false 911 call. And then also the store did press charges and they got about like $1,000 worth of damages, and she was banned from ever entering that specific Walmart's property ever again. And Bradley had a story to tell at every kind of like new date he had, or anytime someone's like, you have any good stories? Bradley would be able to say, yes, I do actually.
Click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it, do it.